Chapter 4791. It's not poisonous gas? Then what is it? Ren Zhongyuan said weakly, shrinking his neck. Humph, this is just a strand of genuine qi. It's not a poisonous technique at all. It's just that the composition of the genuine qi is a bit special. Don't you feel ashamed to say that you practice both elixirs and medicine? Ren Tianxua said angrily. Just a strand of genuine qi? That's impossible. Whose genuine qi would be so complicated? It covers all 5 basic attributes. Ren Zhongyuan still didn't believe it. That's why I said you're a frog in a well. You don't even understand that there's always someone better out there. You deserve to suffer. You're lucky you didn't die outside. Ren Tianxua stared at him, frowned, and carefully tried to resolve it for him. However, it was to no avail. Ren Tianxua shook his head and said, that young man named Lin Yi is really not simple. Even I can't resolve his genuine qi. The younger generation will surpass us in time. Then what should we do? Ren Zhongyuan immediately panicked. He thought it would be easy to resolve it with his father's means. He didn't expect it to be so tricky. If he couldn't resolve it as soon as possible, wouldn't he become a cripple who couldn't circulate his genuine qi for the rest of his life? It seems that normal means won't work. We can only refine it together with elixirs. However, you have to be mentally prepared. I guess it won't work until a month or so, Ren Tianxua said in a low voice. Only then did Ren Zhongyuan heave a sigh of relief. At the same time, he felt incomparably sad. Even with his father's help, he still had to work hard for a month to refine a wisp of true qi. Wasn't this a little too strange? By the way, you just said that the guy named Lin Yi also came to our academy? Ren Tianxua suddenly asked. Yes, this guy is too much. Father, you have to help me. Ren Zhongyuan was immediately overjoyed. If he could encourage his father to personally take action, not to mention a mere Lin Yi, even if 10 people came, they wouldn't know how they died. Help? Humph, you provoked him, and he spared your life. Do you want me to help you? Ren Tianxua frowned again. With a cold snort, he warned, this kid is unfathomable. You better pay attention in the future. Don't always think of stirring up trouble. I don't have the time to clean up after you. After all, he was the chief alchemist. Ren Tianxua's foresight was far greater than Ren Zhongyuan's. Although he was dissatisfied with Lin Yi, he could only punish his own son no matter how big a mistake he made. This was a common problem for most parents. However, he was only a little dissatisfied. It was not to the point where he would personally deal with Lin Yi. Only by keeping a low profile could one live a long life. This was Ren Tianxua's philosophy of life. If it weren't for this belief, he wouldn't have been able to reach his current position step by step. He knew that once he stopped keeping a low profile, it might be the beginning of his demise. Therefore, he endured as much as he could. When Ren Zhongyuan heard this, he gritted his teeth unwillingly. However, in the face of his strict father, he did not dare to say anything. He could only silently suppress the hatred in his heart. He was not as far-sighted as his father. He had always been vengeful. These days, he had been completely blinded by hatred. It was impossible for him to stop now. The next day, Ren Zhongyuan ignored his father's order to recuperate at home and found an opportunity to sneak out. He gathered with Yi Xiaotian, Li Yuzhou, and Sun Baolu again. The 4 of them booked a luxury box in a restaurant inside the academy. They discussed the big plan together. Brother Ren, has the poison in your body been resolved? Yi Xiaotian and the others asked as soon as they met. Don't mention it. My old man said it would take a month to refine it. Just thinking about it makes me feel unlucky. Ren Zhongyuan curled his lips in annoyance. Everyone couldn't help but look at each other. Ren Tianxua took so long to deal with it. This poison was really difficult to deal with. By the way, Brother Ren, I found out something today. Lin Yi doesn't seem to have any plans to enter our academy, Yi Xiaotian suddenly said. What? Then what are they doing here? Ren Zhongyuan asked curiously. I saw Ning Shuefei's name in the latest disciple list, but I didn't see Lin Yi. I guess he is just accompanying Ning Shuefei this time and will leave soon. So if we want to find him for revenge, we have to hurry up. Otherwise, it will be difficult if we wait for this kid to run away. Yi Xiaotian pinched his chin and said, No, it wasn't easy for him to come here. We can't let this kid run away like this. Otherwise, I won't be able to calm down. You guys quickly think of a way. Rin Zhongyuan frowned and urged. The group looked at each other, speechless. Everyone here wanted to kill Lin Yi, but Lin Yi's strength was there for all to see. The incident of Lin Yi sending Scarface flying with a slap had been brought up again and again, and it was hard for them not to know about it. Especially now that Rin Zhongyuan himself was a cripple. How was he supposed to fight Lin Yi? Li Yuzhou, Sun Baolu, your lives were saved by me. Now is the time for you guys to come in handy. It wasn't easy for us to come to our own territory. Can't you even think of a way to deal with Lin Yi? Both of you are useless. Why are your heads on your necks? Rin Zhongyuan raised his hand and slapped each of them. Li Yuzhou and Sun Baolu covered their red cheeks and asked Yi Xiaotian for help with grievances. Even Brother Rin can't think of a good idea. How can you blame us? Yi Xiaotian ignored them. He frowned and thought for a moment. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and he said, Brother Rin, with our strength, we probably aren't that kid's opponent in a head-on battle. But if we alarm our backer because of this, it will seem like we are making a big fuss over a minor issue. It seems that there is only one way left. What way? Rin Zhongyuan asked quickly. Misfortune flows to the east. Yi Xiaotian smiled coldly. What misfortune flows to the east? Brother Yi, quickly tell me in detail. Ren Zhongyuan suddenly became spirited. Let's not talk about this first. When I came back yesterday, I heard something. The one with the surname Long seems to have returned. Yi Xiaotian said. The one with the surname Long? You mean Lung Ruffing? Didn't that guy go to the mystic steppe region? Why did he suddenly come back? Ren Zhongyuan couldn't help but feel strange. Speaking of this person, he couldn't help but gnash his teeth a little because this person was once his and Yi Xiaotian's sworn enemy. Although his background wasn't as deep as theirs, this person's strength was so strong that it made one's hair stand on end. Among the Academy's disciples of the same generation, he and Yi Xiaotian couldn't handle him at all. But 2 years ago, this person brought a female companion to the mystic steppe region. At that time, Ren Zhongyuan and Yi Xiaotian celebrated, but they didn't expect this guy to suddenly come back. Chapter 4792. The beauty pill was a 7th grade medicinal pill. It could be said to be a super-enhanced version of the beauty pill. After taking it, not only could a woman maintain her youth forever, but it could also make her skin and face reborn. Even a disfigured, ugly person could transform into a fairy after taking it. It could be said to be a priceless treasure that all women in the world would scramble for. Beauty pill? Ren Zhongyuan rolled his eyes and immediately knew why Yi Xiaotian mentioned this. He said excitedly, My father was entrusted by someone to refine a group of beauty pills a while ago. It's not difficult to get one from them. Brother Yi, you mean, you want me to use this beauty pill to win over Long Rufin? Wrong, on the contrary, we want to give this beauty pill to Ning Xuefei. Yi Xiaotian smiled mysteriously. Give it to Ning Xuefei? Ren Zhongyuan looked at him in confusion. Using the beauty pill to win over Long Rufin and use this to make Long Rufin cause trouble for Lin Yi. This was the logic of a normal person. What was the point of giving it to Ning Xuefei? Brother Ren, think about it. With Long Rufin's stone-like personality, even if you give him a beauty pill, are you sure you can order him around? Yi Xiaotian asked instead of answering. This may not be true. Ren Zhongyuan couldn't help but shake his head. Lung Rufin was not only ridiculously strong, but his personality was also very unyielding. Even if this kind of person was pinched on his weakness, there was no hope of making him obedient. His most likely reaction would be to fight to the death with you. In particular, there were many conflicts between them. Lung Rufin's disdain for the two of them was obvious on his face. It was basically impossible for him to be willing to be a fighter for them. So, a beauty pill alone is not enough to order him around. At most, it can only be used as a pretense to stir up trouble. Let's give the beauty pill to Ning Xuefei. Then, on the way, coincidentally, his woman heard it. Brother Ren, what do you think will happen next? Yi Xiaotian smiled slyly. Brilliant. His woman is seeking death because of her disfigurement. She can only watch as a beauty pill passes in front of her. If she can resist snatching it, I will write the word run upside down. Ren Zhongyuan excitedly slapped his thigh. That's it. As long as his woman takes action against Ning Shuefei, Lin will definitely take action as well. At that time, the man surnamed Lung won't be able to stay out of it. It's said that he is infatuated with her and will do anything for his woman, Yi Xiaotian said proudly. This could be seen from the fact that Long Rufin was willing to accompany his woman back from the mystic steppe sea region. If it was anyone else, they would only have a 1 in 10,000 chance to continue staying in the mystic steppe sea region. He would never come back even if he was beaten to death. Good plan. Good plan. Ren Zhongyuan sighed repeatedly. After thinking for a while, he added, if they don't fight at that time, we can also expose the fact that Lin has the Thunder Shin vine. The beauty pill and the Thunder Shin pill are what his woman needs the most right now. It's impossible for Long Shouting not to be tempted. The two of them spoke one after another, and a perfect plan was quickly formed. After discussing it, Ren Zhongyuan immediately went home to get the beauty pill. He wanted to see Lin suffer. He didn't want to wait any longer. Taking advantage of Ren Tiansua's absence, Ren Zhongyuan took out the beauty pill with ease and came out to discuss it with Yi Xiaotian. In addition, he found a reliable younger brother to be responsible for delivering the pill. After all, Li Yuzhou and Sun Baolu were too eye-catching. Lin and Ning Shuefei would definitely not believe them. This younger brother's name was Qian Rui. After listening to the instructions, he solemnly took the beauty pill from Ren Zhongyuan's hand and waved it at Li Yuzhou and Sun Baolu, who were standing at the side. He chuckled and said, brother son, you two have a good rest. This younger brother promises to do a good job on this errand. Just wait and see. Li Yuzhou and Sun Baolu were so angry that they grinned. They were both Ren Zhongyuan and Yi Xiaotian's younger brothers. The two of them had been suppressing Qian Rui. They didn't expect that this time they would give him a chance to turn things around. It was really King annoying. But even if they were unhappy, they couldn't do anything about it. They could only watch Qian Rui walk away. Once this matter was settled, Qian Rui might really be able to make a comeback. Who told them to put themselves in trouble because of the photo incident? Humming a song along the way, Qian Rui followed Ren Zhongyuan's instructions and wandered to a courtyard. This was Long Rufin's former residence. Because the place was secluded and suitable for recuperation, he snatched it back from others after returning from the mystic steppe sea area. Except for Long Rufin and his woman, no one would come here at other times. Qian Rui poked his head out and observed for a while, but there was no movement inside. According to the intelligence, Long Rufin went to the business district early this morning. He should be trying to find a way to get the beauty pill and the Thunder Shin pill. So now only his disfigured woman, Yang Qianxue, was left here. Speaking of Yang Qianxue, this woman used to be a highly respected cold goddess in the Soaring Cloud Academy. Both her beauty and strength were first class in the academy. Otherwise, Long Rufin wouldn't have taken a fancy to her, let alone followed him to the mystic steppe sea area for further study. After all, that kind of place couldn't be taken care of by others. One had to be strong enough. Qian Rui licked his lips and carefully walked around the courtyard wall to the backyard. He peeped inside through the thin gap in the fence. As expected, he found Yang Qianxue in the pavilion in the backyard. Although her face was disfigured, this woman still made people's imagination run wild just by looking at her back. After all, she used to be a goddess. After confirming Yang Qianxue's location, Qian Rui immediately tiptoed back to the front yard and deliberately said to himself, where on earth does this woman named Ning Shuefei live? The old shopkeeper is really muddle-headed. He urges me to send the beauty pill to this Miss Ning as a congratulatory gift, but he doesn't give me the specific address. How can I find her? Alas. His voice was neither loud nor soft. After saying this, Qian Rui exerted his divine sense with all his strength. As expected, Yang Qianxue, who was sitting in the backyard lifelessly, suddenly moved. Done. Qian Rui's heart skipped a beat, and he ran without hesitation. His strength was only at the early stage of nascent soul, and even if the other party was seriously injured, she was still at the peak of nascent soul. If he moved a little slower and was intercepted on the spot, it would be a big joke. Qian Rui's speed was extremely fast. After coming out of this secluded courtyard, he went straight to the newcomer's courtyard. According to the rules, every new disciple must live here for the first year. This was a rigid rule. even with Ning Shuefei's identity. Of course, only official disciples had this qualification. Nominal disciples were not included. Chapter 4793. Every year, there would be dozens of people in the welcome pavilion, but the newcomer courtyard would usually only have 4 or 5 people. Rarely would there be more than 10 people. After all, this was the Eastern Continent Academy that only accepted genius disciples. Every year, there were only a few newcomers. At this time, Lin Yi and Ning Shuefei were chatting in the courtyard. There was no one else around. Lu Ziyu and Hua Yudi had gone back to the Morning Pride Academy in the morning. It would probably be a few days before they could meet again. Qin Xingma had also gone out, so there were only the 2 of them left. Didn't they say that the new disciples live here? Why haven't I seen a single new disciple since yesterday? Ning Shuefei asked as she leaned on the stone table. It's probably not time yet. The major sects usually recruit disciples in spring or autumn. I think it's the same for the East Continent academies. Linny couldn't help but think of the Morning Star Academy. Maybe the Soaring Cloud Academy was doing the same and was recruiting genius disciples in all the major heaven islands. Then it's so boring for me to be alone. Sister Hua can only come to see me every few days. You have to stay with me for a while. Ning Shuefei pouted. The wheel of fortune had turned, and now it was just the 2 of them again. It didn't feel bad at all. And Linny nodded. To be honest, he was worried about leaving Ning Shuefei alone. He could only stay and observe for a while to make sure there were no problems here. Only then could he leave with peace of mind. Lin Yi, you're the best. Ning Shuefei giggled. Her eyes turned into crescents as she intimately hugged Lin Yi's arm. A few months ago, she never thought that she would really be together with Lin Yi. But now, the 2 of them had already decided on a status. It was really hard to predict, but she liked it. A soft and bouncy feeling came from his arm. Smelling the girl's pure body fragrance, Lin Yi couldn't help but feel a little restless. Although this lass always gave people the feeling that she was a child who couldn't grow up, not to mention that her capital wasn't small, she was also a little demon who could tempt people to death. The 2 of them were flirting. Lin Yi suddenly caught a glimpse of a person poking his head out of the door. After hesitating for a moment, he walked towards the 2 of them, holding a delicate little box in her hand. She asked, "Is this Miss Ning Shuefei?" "It's me. What can I do for you?" Ning Shuefei and Lin Yi looked at each other. "The old shopkeeper of the Eastern Chamber of Commerce asked me to give you a present. He said that it's a late birthday present, so please accept it." Qian Rui calmly handed the box over to Ning Shuefei. Eastern Commerce? Ning Shuefei could not help but feel a little surprised. She had heard from her mother that this was an extremely powerful super chamber of commerce, but its activities had always been limited to the Eastern Continent. Therefore, it wasn't very well known on the other Heaven Stage Islands, but it was a colossus in the Eastern Continent. Ning Shuefei had never heard that West Island had a relationship with this Eastern Chamber of Commerce. But since it had sent a gift to her, it was not good to refuse it directly. Maybe it wanted to build a good relationship and was ready to expand. Having such a super chamber of commerce was good for West Island, so she had to accept the gift. In that case, please thank the old shopkeeper for me. I will visit him in person when I have the chance. Ning Shuefei nodded slightly. In front of outsiders, she still behaved appropriately. After all, it was related to the image of the whole West Island, so she could not be careless. Okay, then I'll leave now. Qian Rui smiled slightly. He immediately turned around and left the newcomer yard. When he passed the gate, he couldn't help but raise a proud smile, because he had seen a white shadow quickly approaching from the corner of his eye. Everything was going according to plan. After watching Qian Rui go out, Ning Shuefei opened the box with great interest. Looking at the milky white elixir in it, she suddenly jumped with excitement. As an alchemist, Linny couldn't tell what elixir it was, but she recognized it at a glance. Beauty elixir. This is the legendary beauty elixir. 7th grade beauty elixir? Linny looked at it and was slightly surprised. This was really a big deal. In the market, it was a priceless thing. No matter how many spiritual jades you had, you might not be able to buy it. At this moment, a white figure jumped over the wall and came behind them in an instant. He instantly appeared behind the 2 of them and stretched out his hand to grab Ning Shuefei. His target was the beauty pill in her hand. Ning Shuefei was shocked. She was immersed in the excitement of getting the beauty elixir at the moment, and she didn't expect that someone would suddenly attack her from behind. This was Shangyun College. Who was so bold to make trouble in such a place? Of course, with Ning Shuefei's strength, even if she was prepared, she couldn't react at all. Fortunately, Lin Yi was beside her. At the moment when this person jumped over the wall, Lin Yi had already noticed it. Go away. Facing the white figure who suddenly appeared, Lin Yi didn't hesitate to use 1,000 legs of frenzy. Before the white figure could touch a hair of Ning Shuefei, Lin Yi directly kicked her back. The white-clothed figure grunted. Logically speaking, if the ambush didn't work, the person should escape as quickly as possible. After all, causing trouble in a place like this wouldn't end well. However, this person uncharacteristically stopped. Lin Yi's 1,000 fiery kicks only forced her back and didn't injure her. Who are you? Lin Yi looked at the person coldly. To his surprise, judging from the figure and temperament, this person was actually a woman. However, her face was tightly covered with a white cloth, and only a pair of eyes could be seen. Lin Yi couldn't see what she looked like exactly. Hand over the beauty elixir. Yang Qinshuet didn't even look at Lin Yi. She just stared at the box in Ning Shuefei's hand, which contained the beauty elixir that she dreamed of. Who are you? Why? Hearing this, Ning Shuefei was immediately unhappy. Although with her appearance and temperament, she didn't need this kind of thing at all. This thing was like super cosmetics. No woman would easily take it out and give it to someone, let alone a stranger who came with bad intentions. After all, no one would refuse to make themselves more beautiful. Leave now, or don't blame me for being too harsh. Lin Yi's face also became cold. If it was under normal circumstances, he wouldn't mind asking the whole story. But now, Ning Shuefei had just entered Soaring Cloud Academy, and on the second day, someone came to make trouble unscrupulously. If he didn't be harsh, he didn't know how many troubles would be waiting for Ning Shuefei after he left. Chapter 4794. The surrounding flowers and trees were even covered with a thick layer of white frost, which was a terrible sign of an approaching blizzard. This woman's strength was not simple. Lin Yi's eyelids twitched slightly. The effect of this world of ice and snow was not only freezing the surrounding environment, but the most terrible thing was that even the blood flowing in his body showed a faint sign of freezing. Although it was not completely frozen, the speed of true qi circulation was still inevitably affected, and he could only exert 80% of his strength at most. Even Lin Yi was like this. If it was someone else, it would only be worse. Maybe they wouldn't even be able to exert half of their strength. In front of this woman, masters of the same level were completely beaten up by her. Xiangyun Academy was really full of geniuses. In an instant, Yang Qinshuo had turned into a snow shadow and appeared next to Ning Shuefei again. Just like before, neither Lin Yi nor Ning Shuefei was her target. From the beginning to the end, she just wanted to grab the beauty pill, and she didn't care about anything else. Get out. Lin Yi glanced at this woman coldly. Even if the opponent's strength was not to be underestimated, she was only at the peak of Yuanying stage after all. For him, who could instantly kill a master of the profound ascending stage, no matter how strong a peak of Yuanying stage was, it would not pose any threat to him. Lin Yi raised his hand and unleashed a fiery fist before he even finished his sentence. A fiery shadow appeared out of nowhere, forcing the opponent back once more. Even the ice and snow around him melted at the same time. It didn't matter when or where. The fact that fire could subdue ice would never change. Yang Qinshua's expression changed, and she finally looked at Lin Yi seriously. Previously, she found that this guy was only at the middle stage of Yuanying stage, so she didn't take him seriously, but she didn't expect that this person's strength was so strong that he could easily break her ice and snow domain. I only want the beauty pill. I don't want to hurt anyone. Don't force me. Because of the serious injury, Yang Qinshua's voice was obviously a little hoarse and weak. Only then did Lin Yi notice the abnormality of the opponent's state. Logically speaking, if a master at the peak of Yuanying stage was seriously injured, he shouldn't have such strong strength, unless the opponent was a freak like him, but it didn't seem like it. There was only one possibility. Before the injury, the opponent's strength was far above the peak of the nascent soul realm. In other words, he was at least a mysterious ascending stage master. This discovery made Lin Yi secretly speechless. Even if the other party was a profound ascending stage master, he wouldn't be so unreasonable as to rush over to snatch the beauty pill, right? Turning his head to look at Ning Xuefei, who was hugging the beauty pill tightly in her arms like a mother hen protecting her chicks, Lin Yi was instantly speechless. In the face of the temptation of the beauty pill, women really couldn't be measured with common sense. You're here to snatch something, and you're telling me not to force you? Hee, is there something wrong with your brain? Lin Yi couldn't help but smile. No matter who Ning Xuefei was, no matter what difficulty she had, there was no room for negotiation. If Ning Xuefei didn't like this kind of thing, she wouldn't be able to gain a foothold in Soaring Cloud Academy in the future. Then don't blame me. Anger flashed in Yang Qianshua's eyes, and the surrounding temperature dropped again, much more fiercely than before. Just now, the flowers and trees were only covered with frost, but now, icicles were directly hanging down. If there was no Zhanqi to protect the body, ordinary people couldn't hold on here for even a minute. At the same time, Yang Qianxue made another move. Her figure disappeared into the world of ice and snow, and her whole body seemed to evaporate into thin air. Not only could she not be found by the naked eye, but even the divine sense couldn't detect her for a while. Lin Yi couldn't help but show a trace of a dignified expression. He didn't expect this woman to have such a clever method. She could even hide from his divine sense. She was really not simple. However, Lin Yi still found some clues. This world of ice and snow actually couldn't really isolate the divine sense like the sea fog or the miasma. As long as he was willing, his divine sense could still be used here without any hindrance, but there was no way to detect the other party. This was actually a smokescreen, but ordinary smokescreen could only deceive the vision. But this smokescreen before him was very clever, and it could even deceive the divine sense. To put it bluntly, this was an extremely clever psychological suggestion. It would only make you pay attention to the things that it wanted you to pay attention to, but make you subconsciously ignore the things that it really wanted to hide. After figuring this out, Lin Yi's heart instantly calmed down. Although he still couldn't lock onto the woman's position for a while, as long as he eliminated the places that his divine sense had swept past, the remaining places would definitely have places where the other party was hiding. Moreover, there was one more thing that could be used. Since the other party's target was the beauty pill in Ning Xuefei's hands, then she would definitely wait for an opportunity to snatch it. Combining this with his deduction, it wouldn't be difficult to deduce the other party's hiding place. Frenzy 8 Trigram Palm. Without any warning, Lin Yi suddenly attacked the right rear. Ning Xuefei looked back in confusion, and her eyes immediately widened. After being swept by Lin Yi's palm, a wretched figure suddenly appeared in the originally empty place. Yang Qianxue was sent flying, and then she spat out a large mouthful of blood. Injuries on top of injuries, her face became even paler, and her gaze towards Lin Yi was filled with shock and disbelief. Ning Xuefei suddenly cried out, and even Lin Yi's expression changed. The two of them looked at Yang Qianxue at this moment, speechless. The white cloth on the other party's face had been scraped off by the true qi just now, and shockingly revealed a hideous face riddled with holes. Lin Yi couldn't help but frown. No wonder the other party would disregard everything to come and snatch the beauty pill. From the looks of it, her face should have been deliberately destroyed by someone. First, it was permeated by poison, and then it was roasted by raging fire. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been reduced to this hideous appearance. Only now did Yang Qianxue realize that her face wasn't covered at all. Her entire person instantly screamed madly as if she had been stimulated, and she fell to the ground in a panic as she retreated repeatedly. She was even more terrified than Ning Xuefei, who had been frightened by her. She had become a completely crazy woman, and there was not the slightest trace of the aura of an expert from before. Ning Xuefei was so frightened that she hid behind Lin Yi. Looking at the woman's eyes in front of her, she couldn't bear to look at this woman in front of her. After thinking for a moment, she took out the beauty pill and handed it to Lin Yi, saying, "Why don't you give it to her? After all, she was a kind-hearted girl. She naturally wouldn't allow the other party to directly snatch it. But now that she saw the other party in such a pitiful and disheveled state, Ning Shuefei really couldn't bear to do it. Besides, this beauty pill wasn't of much use to her. At most, it would just be the icing on the cake, but to this person, it was a life-saving straw. Was there no normal person in Soaring Cloud Academy? Linny froze, speechless as he looked at the man and woman who were hugging each other. Sir, you don't seem to understand the situation? That's right, I did injure her, but she was the one who tried to snatch the item first. At most, we can call it even. Why should I give you the beauty pill? Linny was also a person with a temper. If the other party spoke politely, with his ability, he would be able to restore this woman's appearance even without the beauty pill. However, if she used force, then there was nothing much to say. I'll say it again. Give me the beauty pill, and today's matter will be written off. The young man continued to speak indifferently. It seemed that he was not going to reason at all. Of course, if he really wanted to reason, the reason was indeed not on his side. So there is no room for negotiation? Linny's expression suddenly turned cold. The box containing the beauty pill in his hand disappeared in an instant under the young man's nose. He said lightly, "Please go back. By the way, pity is not a bargaining chip to threaten others. She is pitiful to be disfigured like this, but what's the big deal? Who are you saying is pitiful?" The young man's cold temperament suddenly became a little more angry. Haven't you heard it, Lung Rufin? In this guy's eyes, you two are two pitiful worms. Ah! Suddenly, Ren Zhongyuan's laughter came from the gate of the courtyard, and then he walked in carelessly, followed by Yi Xiaotian and the others. Seeing these people appear, Linny couldn't help but feel a little strange. Thinking back, he felt that today's matter was a little strange. Could it be that these guys were behind it? Is it you guys who are behind it? Long Rufin's gaze suddenly turned to Ren Zhongyuan and the others with an unfriendly expression. Ren Zhongyuan and Yi Xiaotian were shocked at the same time. They appeared just to add fuel to the fire and enjoy Lin Yi's deflated expression. It couldn't be that the case was solved so quickly, right? Behind it? What the hell? We just heard someone screaming and rushed over to watch the show. Long, don't casually slander good people. I advise you to focus on dealing with this brat who hit your woman. He's very strong. Ren Zhongyuan calmly tried to clear his name. Sure enough, after hearing this, Long Rufin's gaze fell on Linny again. Just now, this sentence was just a casual test. Whether there was someone behind it or not, it was a fact that this guy had hit young Qinxue. He saw it with his own eyes. Just based on this guy already deserved to die. Lung Rufin, I heard that you have been looking for beauty elixir and thunderxian pill all over the world recently. It seems that you have found the right person. This guy is both things. I have already reminded you to this point, so you can do as you see fit. Yi Xiaotian instigated at the right time. You have thunderxian pill? Lung Rufin's eyes shrank. Even in the resource-rich East Continent College, things like thunderxian pill were not easy to get. Because of its practicality, it was the rarest of all the 7th-grade elixirs. A thunderxian pill casually released on the market would face at least hundreds of times more competitors than the beauty elixir. I'm not sure if he has refined the thunderxian pill, but this guy got a whole thunderxian vine during the trial in West Island, so he became the son-in-law of West Island. If you can get the thunderxian vine from him, give me half, and I can ask my father to refine it into a thunderxian pill for you. Ren Zhongyuan said with a smile. He could punish Lin Yi and get the thunderxian vine at the same time, which was a good thing to kill two birds with one stone. Being instigated by these two people, Long Rufin, who had the intention to attack Lin Yi, suddenly became more determined. He was not a good person. For Yang Qinxue, he could be the enemy of the whole world, let alone the son-in-law of West Island, who he did not know at all. However, Long Rufin did not attack immediately, but said to Lin Yi, I want the beauty elixir and the thunderxian vine. Name your price. Chapter 4796. I'm sorry, I won't sell either of these things, Linny said lightly. The other party didn't look like he was here to talk business, but to force him to buy or sell. With his temper, it would be impossible for him to agree. Ren Zhongyuan and the others let out a sigh of relief. It was a good thing that Lin Yi had a stubborn temper, or they would have lost a beauty pill for nothing. You won't sell it? Lung Rufin's face changed. He looked down at Yang Qianxue in his arms with pity and said with a fierce look, since you won't sell it, I will beat you until you sell it. Physical fight or civil fight, you choose one. It seemed that he couldn't avoid this battle today. Lin Yi thought of something and said calmly, what about physical fight? What about civil fight? Physical fight is a private fight, and it's up to fate by hook or by crook. I will take the beauty elixir and thunder Shenrot Tan after I kill you. As for civil fight, it's a public challenge, and everything will be according to the rules of the challenge. If you lose, you must hand over these two things. Lung Rufin looked at Lin Yi and said slowly, then let's fight. Lin Yi said lightly. He wasn't afraid of any physical fight, but it might involve Ning Xuefei. Even if the possibility was not very high, it was still a hidden danger, and he didn't want Ning Xuefei to be in any danger. Okay, then let's do it. Lung Rufin held Yang Qianxue in his arms and turned to leave. Lin Yi's choice saved him a lot of trouble. After all, he was the son-in-law of West Island, and if a private fight killed someone, the higher-ups of the college would definitely not let it go. But since it was a public challenge, there was nothing to say. Even if the Lord of West Island came in person, he had nothing to say. Wait, Lin Yi suddenly stopped, just when everyone thought he was going to regret. He squinted at Lung Rufin and said, you haven't said what you will do if you lose. If I lose, I can't hand over the beauty elixir and thunder Shenrot Tan, and if you lose, nothing will happen, right? Don't be so shameless. I won't lose. Lung Rufin didn't even look at Lin Yi. He paused for a moment. Seeing that Lin Yi didn't follow him, he turned around and said, what do you want? My fiancé just so happens to lack a bodyguard. Lin Yi thought for a bit. He had already seen the tip of the iceberg of Lung Rufin's strength. He was indeed a very troublesome enemy, and a man who was infatuated with love was not a bad person. If Ning Xuefei had such a bodyguard by her side, then he could do his own things without worry. Lung Rufin did not object. After a cold snort, Lin Yi immediately took the lead and walked to the arena. This arena was specially designed for the disciples of different academies to fight with each other. Although Lin Yi wasn't a disciple of Soaring Cloud Academy, he had a special identity. Moreover, his opponent was Lung Rufin, so there was no problem with using the arena. Ren Zhongyuan, Yi Xiaotian, and the others looked at each other and smiled. Although the two of them unexpectedly chose to fight in public, as long as they fought, their goal had been achieved. After all, even if it was a fight, they could still kill each other. When they arrived at their destination, the originally lively arena suddenly quieted down, and even the people who had arranged to fight in the arena stopped spontaneously. They all looked at Lung Rufin in awe. This was the undefeated legend of the arena, and the longest winning record in the arena was created by him. Lung Rufin had fought his way up step by step from being unknown to being famous all over the world. He was in this place. He was the invincible god. The two of them walked to the largest arena in the middle one after another, and the news that Lung Rufin had arranged to fight with someone spread like wildfire. Soon, a large number of spectators gathered in the arena, and all of them were inquiring about the background of Lin Yi. When they heard that this person was the son-in-law of West Island, the atmosphere suddenly became more and more enthusiastic. The cold-faced machete god against the son-in-law of West Island, which was a natural and huge gimmick. That was to say, this place did not charge tickets, otherwise it would at least be a very considerable astronomical income. Lin Yi, you have to be careful. Ning Xuefei leaned under the arena and shouted. She didn't know how strong Lung Rufin was. She only knew that Lin Yi was very strong. In terms of confidence, she was more than Lin Yi himself. Lin Yi smiled and gave her a reassuring look, but when he turned his head to face Lung Rufin, his expression suddenly became serious and dignified. He obviously didn't do anything, but he made him feel a lot of pressure. This guy was really extraordinary. While the two of them were confronting each other, people on the sidelines had spontaneously lit a stick of incense for them. The winner would be decided within the time it took to burn a stick of incense. This was the conventional rule. Then let's start, Lung Rufin said as he walked towards Lin Yi. He didn't release any aura. nor did he use any martial skills. There wasn't even the slightest fluctuation of pure energy. He just walked towards Lin Yi like that. Was he underestimating the enemy? Lin Yi's eyes narrowed slightly. Seeing that the opponent was already within 3 steps, he did not dare to hesitate. He raised his hand and used a raging fire 8 trigrams palm. Although this was not his strongest martial arts skill now, it was the most convenient martial arts skill to use, and it was enough to pose a threat to the masters of the profound ascending stage. In the face of the raging fire 8 trigrams palm, Long Rufin's body still did not have any fluctuations of genuine qi. He just raised his hand into the shape of a palm blade. With a light wave, the raging fire 8 trigrams palm was suddenly smashed out of thin air. Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat as he watched, and the crowd was boiling. Ren Zhongyuan patted Yi Xiaoyan's shoulder excitedly and said, "The one surnamed Long is still powerful. This kid can't be his opponent at all. Let's see whether he will be beaten to death or beaten half to death today." Whether Lin Yi died or not, Ren Zhongyuan could vent the anger in his heart. Evil people needed to be tortured by evil people. Whether it was Long Rufin or Lin Yi, they were both thorns in his eyes. A beauty pill could make the 2 dogs bite each other, and he could also take the opportunity to get the Thunder Xian vine. This business was absolutely profitable. You only have this little strength? Then hurry up and admit defeat. Otherwise, I'm afraid I can't stop, and you will die. Long Rufin looked at Lin Yi and frowned. Although it was for young Qinxue, if he could solve the problem without killing, it would be the best situation. He was not a fool who only knew how to fight and kill. In fact, when he saw young Qinxue injured before, he still had some expectations for the strength of Lin Yi. Even if young Qinshua's strength was now reduced to the peak of the nascent soul realm, she was still an invincible existence in the nascent soul realm. This kid could hurt her with the cultivation of the middle stage of the nascent soul realm, so it should not be easy. But now it seemed that Long Rufin felt that he was still thinking too much. Young Qinxue was now mentally injured and unstable. It was not surprising that she was hurt by anyone. It was just this kid's good luck. Chapter 4797. Really? Long Rufin still didn't intend to attack. He just walked towards Lin Yi step by step. He didn't have a monstrous aura, but he gave people an incomparably terrifying pressure. Every step he took made people's hearts suddenly heavy, and in the end, they couldn't even breathe. If it was someone else, they would have already surrendered, but his opponent was Lin Yi. Who was Lin Yi? Even the giant evil cultivators at the opening mountain stage couldn't do anything to him. No matter how powerful Long Rufin was, he was just a profound ascending stage master. How could Lin Yi retreat because of this pressure? Since the opponent didn't take the initiative to attack, Lin Yi wouldn't be polite to him. The Zhen Qi in his body quickly circulated, and with a thought, he directly used the Raging Flame 1000 Burst Fist. The huge arena was suddenly covered by the monstrous flame, and there were constantly loud explosions. Even the disciples of Soaring Cloud Academy, who were watching the battle, couldn't help but look at each other. As expected of a person who could become the prince consort of the West Island, he really wasn't simple. With the power of the Raging Flame 1000 Burst Fist, an ordinary profound ascending stage master wouldn't be able to withstand it. But Lin Yi didn't think that it could cause any decent threat to Long Rufin. His opponent was a monster who was comparable to a profound ascending stage master. If a Raging Flame 1000 Burst Fist could be effective, then it would be too whimsical. With the perfect cover of the Raging Flame 1000 Burst Fist, Lin Yi didn't hesitate to use the Super Butterfly Micro Steps. His body was like a ghost drifting in the sea of fire. In this way, even if the opponent used his divine sense, he wouldn't be able to easily lock his position. After all, the Raging Flame 1000 Burst Fist also had quite a hindrance to the use of divine sense. Sure enough, Long Rufin stood motionless in the center of the explosion. Although the Raging Flame 1000 Burst Fist couldn't hurt him at all, it still played a perfect cover effect, allowing Lin Yi to sneak behind him without anyone noticing. Amidst the heaven-shaking explosions, there was a deep dragon roar mixed in. An extremely powerful 5-element killing aura, with a hint of the 5-poison flood dragon shadow, pounced towards Long Rufin's defenseless back. Done. Lin Yi's spirit was lifted. With the power of his 5 elements murderous chi, any profound ascending stage master would not be able to escape unscathed. This was a killing move that originated from the Sea Fisher stage. Even if Lin Yi could only learn 30% of it, it was not something a master of this level could withstand. However, in the next moment, Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. The rumbling, raging flame, 1,000 explosions stopped abruptly, and the flames that shot up into the sky disappeared as well. The entire arena turned into a world of ice and snow, freezing the blood of the spectators and making it hard for their chi to flow. The effect. Lin. Lin Yi. Murderous Lin Yi. Lin. Lin. Bai. Can and bai, and comma Lin comma yang to say. Lin to bye comma bye. I Lin comma Lin a t. But what shocked Lin Yi the most was not this, but that in his opponent's hand, he was actually holding his 5 elements murderous chi. This guy could actually grab the 5 elements murderous chi with his bare hands. Not bad, but useless, Lung Rufin said coldly, and then an almost transparent ice blade suddenly appeared in his other hand. With a silent slash, the 5 elements murderous chi in his hand was directly cut in half, and then disappeared into thin air. Silence. The audience was silent. Lin Yi had seen a lot of strong enemies, but it was the first time he had seen an opponent like Lung Rufin. Even when he was facing the West Mountain Old Master, he was not as shocked as he was now. When facing the West Mountain Old Master, he knew that there was a great disparity in strength, so he felt that it was reasonable for the other party to use any kind of heaven-defying means. But this Lung Rufin was different. Lin Yi thought that he should have the power to fight, but after seeing this shocking scene, he suddenly knew that he was thinking too much. In the end, his own strength was too low. With a mere yuanying middle stage, facing a master comparable to the mysterious Ascension late stage, no matter how he looked at it, it was too difficult. If he could win like this, it would be abnormal. But even so, it was impossible for Lin Yi to admit defeat so easily. On the contrary, he was really excited at this time. Some people are weak when they meet strong people, and some people are stronger when they meet strong people. Lin Yi is obviously the latter. Seeing the increasingly turbulent fighting spirit in Lin Yi's eyes, Lung Rufin's expressionless face changed slightly. He slowly raised the ice blade in his hand and pointed it at Lin Yi and said, "Admit defeat or die." Lin Yi's pupils suddenly shrank. The oppression this guy gave before was already terrifying enough. Now that there was an ice blade, this unparalleled pressure increased more than 10 times. It felt like a mountain was pressing on top of his head. Not to mention resisting, it was rare to be able to stabilize his body at this time. Blade momentum. A thought suddenly flashed in Lin Yi's mind. This was the legendary realm that all swordsmen dreamed of. It was different from the aura created by strong chi and strength. Instead, it was purely based on the dedication and understanding of the blade, and forcibly achieved a blade momentum that could fight against heaven and earth. A swordsman paid attention to the unity of man and sword, while a swordsman paid attention to forming a world of their own. Once the blade momentum was formed, no one could resist it. Lin Yi's heart was shocked. He never thought that his opponent would be a monster who had cultivated the blade momentum. No wonder he could split the 5 elements of killing intent with one strike. How could he still fight? Seeing that Lin Yi was unwilling to admit defeat, Lung Rufin did not have the patience to continue to wait. Without saying anything, he slashed with his blade. The ice blade that was originally only a few feet long, when it reached Lin Yi's head, it had grown into a giant blade that was several feet long. Ning Xuefei, who was in the audience, suddenly turned pale with fright. If this continued, Lin Yi's whole body would be cut in half. Fortunately, this extremely dangerous scene did not last for too long. When Ning Xuefei looked at the stage again through the gap between her fingers, Lin Yi had already flashed 10 feet away. It seemed that he should be safe. A little interesting. Lung Rufin suddenly looked up at Lin Yi. No one knew the power of the world of ice and snow better than him. This kind of environment could be said to limit the function of the body to an abnormal level. Coupled with the destructive power of the blade, not to mention a trivial nascent soul stage master, even a profound ascending stage master of the same level would not be able to move. However, Unexpectedly, the speed that Linny showed just now was still very impressive. It seemed that there was not much difference from before. This was really incredible. Chapter 4798. Lin, he could only keep a distance from his opponent. His mind was quickly thinking of countermeasures. This opponent who had mastered the blade force was really not easy to deal with. Even his strongest 5 elements killing aura could not do anything to him, let alone his other moves. Even if he found another good opportunity like the one just now, it would be difficult to pose a real threat. At this time, Long Rufin was closing in step by step. The ice blade in his hand had unknowingly become even more spectacular and terrifying. It had now reached a length of 10 feet and could easily sweep through half the arena. Even if Linny was fast, it would still be difficult for him to dodge. Seeing that the other party was about to slash at him again, Linny suddenly had an idea. Just now, he had managed to escape by catching him off guard. If he were to attack again, he might not be able to escape unscathed. At this critical moment, Lin Yi suddenly had an idea. Got it. Without waiting for Long Rufin to chop down with his saber again, a blue electric arc suddenly appeared in Lin Yi's hand. This scene startled Long Rufin. His saber technique was already complete. He was not afraid of anything except this lightning martial technique. Because whether it was the surrounding world of ice and snow or the ice blade in his hand, they were all good carriers for the lightning. He could cut through the 5 elements of murderous aura with one slash, but he couldn't cut through the lightning with one slash. That would only cause the lightning to reach him faster. This kid's tricks were endless. For the first time, Long Rufin started to take Lin Yi seriously. If Lin Yi had used a lightning martial technique from the start, then even if Lin Yi could not contend against him head-on, he would at least be able to put up a fight and not end up in such a sorry state. Looking at the electric arcs jumping in Lin Yi's palm, Long Rufin's first reaction was to withdraw his blade. The huge ice blade in his hand could greatly suppress Lin Yi, but it was also a natural target. Lin Yi didn't even need to attack him. As long as the electric arcs landed on the huge ice blade, he would definitely be hit. That was what Lin Yi was thinking. A blue light flashed across the air, and the electric arc jumped onto the ice blade. At the same time, however, Long Rufin's reaction shocked Lin Yi. He didn't throw the ice blade away, but swung it at Lin Yi without a care in the world, as if he was putting his life on the line. What a ruthless man! Lin Yi's expression changed, and he hurriedly used his extreme butterfly subtle steps to avoid it. However, this ice blade was too big, especially with the restriction of the edge of the arena. With Lin Yi's current speed, it was impossible for him to avoid it completely. Even if he could barely avoid the main body of the ice blade, he couldn't avoid the terrible saber momentum that followed. Boom! Lin Yi was instantly crushed to the ground by the saber force, creating a human-shaped pit. He then spat out a large mouthful of blood, suffering serious internal injuries. At the same time, Long Rufin was also hit. The power of thunder and lightning flowed through the giant ice blade and instantly invaded his body. His whole body suddenly felt numb, and his ice-cold expression, which had never changed for tens of thousands of years, became much more interesting. However, after a while, when the power of thunder and lightning on his body dissipated, Long Rufin did not fall down. Except that his body was still a little numb, he was basically uninjured. Looking at Lin Yi, who was crushed to the ground by his saber momentum, he said coldly, "It's a pity that the only move you can use to deal with me is so weak." He was not as weak as Kong Ming Ming, nor was he trapped in an iron shell like Kong Ming Ming. In the past, Lin Yi could electrocute Kong Ming Ming half to death with all his strength, but now when he used it on Long Rufin, it could only be regarded as a tickle at most. Hearing Long Rufin's words, Lin Yi, who was pressed to the ground by the saber momentum and spat out blood, could not help but smile bitterly. Since he mastered the power of thunder and lightning in the trial of West Island, he had never had a chance to practice it well. During this period of time, he had made no progress. Otherwise, he would not have fallen into such an embarrassing situation. If he had known this earlier, he should not have been busy controlling the ancient battleship during the month at sea. If he had focused on practicing the power of thunder and lightning, it might have worked wonders. However, it was too late to think more. Long Rufin walked to Lin Yi again, and the cold tip of the saber was right on Lin Yi's forehead. He gave an ultimatum: admit defeat or die. Lin Yi grinned, but before he could speak, someone in the audience suddenly exclaimed, "The incense stick has been extinguished." The crowd suddenly burst into an uproar. The time it took for an incense stick to burn was up, and according to the rules, the battle should end here. Of course, this was not an official competition, and it was up to the two people in the stands to decide whether to follow the rules or not. As long as Long Rufin was willing, no one would say anything if he continued to slash like this. However, Long Rufin did not mean to kill him. The surrounding ice and snow quietly disappeared, and the ice saber against Lin Yi's forehead also disappeared. He said expressionlessly, "You have lost. Hand over the beauty elixir and the thunder Shinratan." Lin Yi smiled and struggled to get up from the ground. Without saying a word, he turned around and walked off the stage. Long Rufin frowned and was about to stop him. However, Lin Yi suddenly stopped, turned his head, and looked at him seriously. "Which eye of yours saw me lose? Did you kill me, or did I admit defeat?" "You." Long Rufin was speechless for a moment. Even a blind man present could tell who won and who lost, but he had to admit that Lin Yi's words made sense. Since he did not die and did not admit defeat, then who said that Lin Yi must have lost? But no matter how he looked at it, Lin Yi was acting shamelessly. Long Rufin was not a man of principle. If the other party wanted to act shamelessly, he did not mind fighting privately. Acting shamelessly in front of absolute strength was courting death. However, what Lin Yi said next made him dispel this idea. "Let's continue tomorrow." Lin Yi waved his hand with difficulty. Then he carried Ning Xuefei and limped away under everyone's gaze. Long Rufin stood on the stage and looked deeply at Lin Yi without saying a word. Then he jumped off the stage and left with Yang Qianxue, who had put on her veil again. What the hell is Lung doing? This guy is inexplicably soft-hearted. Just now, he directly killed Lin Yi with a saber. Why did he have to go through so much trouble? Ren Zhongyuan saw this scene and was so angry that he stomped his feet and cursed. He paid the price of a beauty elixir not to see these two people appreciate each other and stop when the time was right. He was looking forward to a fight to the death. He did not expect this result. Chapter 4799. That's right. It's best if both sides are injured and die together, and then we can get back all the beauty pills and the thunder mysterious Rattan. That will be a big profit. Ren Zhongyuan sneered. I don't think so. With Lin Yi's strength, he can't pose any threat to Long Rufin at all. Today, he was beaten in his best state. What's more, he will be injured tomorrow. I think even if he doesn't die, he will lose half of his life. Yi Xiaotian analyzed. Die, die, die. Just die quickly. Ren Zhongyuan cursed with a vicious face. How are you? Do you want me to go to Master for help? After Ning Xuefei helped Lin Yi back to the room of the newcomer's courtyard, she looked at Lin Yi's pale face with a worried face. She regretted it now. If she had known this from the beginning, she would have given the beauty pills to that woman. In this way, there would not have been so many things later, and Lin Yi would not have been injured. No, this little injury is not a problem. Have you forgotten my self-healing ability? Lin Yi looked a little tired, but he still forced a smile and told Ning Xuefei to rest assured. Oh. Ning Xuefei nodded again and again. Since Lin Yi could even survive the fatal injury in the trial of West Island, this injury was really not a big deal. However, Lin Yi was simply holding on at this time. This injury was far less serious than the one in the trial of West Island, and there was no wound on the surface, but in fact, he had been seriously injured inside. Otherwise, he would not have spat out several mouthfuls of blood just now. After all, Long Rufin's knife was not so easy to bear. You go out first. I have to close myself to heal. Tomorrow, I have to deal with that guy. Lin Yi smiled at Ning Xuefei with difficulty. Ning Xuefei wanted to persuade Lin Yi to give up on the challenge, but now is not the time to talk. She could only nod and say, All right then, you heal yourself first. If there's anything, call me. I'll be waiting outside. Ning Xuefei stayed outside for the whole night. She was lying on the table in a daze and didn't even realize that she was picked up. She only woke up when she was placed on the bed. She opened her eyes in a daze and said in surprise, "Lin-Yi, are your injuries healed?" "It's all done." Lin-Yi smiled. Although he had been shaken by the saber yesterday, it was not a fatal injury. As long as he could recover, the other minor injuries could be easily healed. Great. Ning Xuefei was so excited that she jumped up from the bed and hugged Lin-Yi like an octopus. The girl's soft and supple body made Lin-Yi confused, especially when the girl's clothes were disheveled. At this moment, if he looked down, he would see things that he shouldn't see. This early in the morning was enough to make his blood boil. Cough, cough. At this moment, a few awkward coughs came from the door. Lin-Yi and Ning Xuefei were scared and quickly separated. They turned around and saw that Qin Xingma had walked in. At this moment, the elegant and intellectual Vice Dean had a shy blush on her face. She had gone out to do something yesterday and had only just returned to the academy. After hearing about the battle between Lin-Yi and Long Rufeng, she rushed over. She didn't expect to see the two of them hugging each other like glue. It was as if she had bumped into a happy couple. Although she was experienced, she still couldn't help but blush. "Master, you're back." Ning Xuefei quickly tidied up her clothes and ran over to greet her. "Vice Dean Shun." Lin-Yi also cupped his hands in greeting. "Yes, I heard that you're going to fight Long Rufeng today. Are you confident?" In order to cover up the awkwardness, Qin Xingma went straight to the point. A bitter smile appeared on Lin-Yi's face. At this time, there was no need to put on airs. He could only honestly say, "To be honest, I really don't have much confidence." Qin Xingma had already guessed that this would be the case. No matter how strong Lin-Yi was, it was impossible for him to be Long Rufeng's opponent. Even if they were both super geniuses who could challenge above their level, their strength was on a completely different level. If Lin-Yi could still defeat Long Rufeng, then it was simply heaven-defying. "Then, do you still want to go?" Qin Xingma looked at Lin-Yi and said, "I don't need to say more about the principle of being flexible. Even if it's for Fei-Fei, you have to endure this." "Lin-Yi, why don't you listen to Master?" Ning Xuefei pleaded. Her poor strength didn't mean that she had poor judgment. What's more, in the situation yesterday, everyone could see the gap in strength between them. Besides, with yesterday's experience, Long Rufeng would definitely not show mercy this time, and it was very likely that he would kill on the spot. Lin-Yi looked at Qin Xingma and then at Ning Xuefei, who was nervous. He couldn't help but smile and said, "For Fei-Fei, I can't avoid this fight today. Otherwise, it will not only ruin my own reputation, but also the reputation of the whole West Island." But Ning Xuefei still wanted to persuade him. Although she was the princess of West Island, in fact, the reputation of West Island was far less important than Lin-Yi in her eyes. As long as Lin-Yi was fine, it didn't matter if his reputation was damaged. Don't worry. It's one thing to accept the challenge, but it's another thing to win. There's no rule that you have to win the fight, right? If the situation is not good, I will admit defeat. Long Rufeng just wants the beauty elixir and the thunder Xianratan. If it's not necessary, he won't kill me. Lin-Yi comforted her. Ning Xuefei and Qin Xingma looked at each other. It was true. As long as Lin-Yi was willing to admit defeat, his life would be safe, and it wouldn't affect the reputation of West Island. It was natural for Yuanying and Xian Shang to lower their heads. "Well, then you must be careful. Don't force yourself. As long as we're alive, there's hope. Even if we can't win this time, we will definitely beat him next time." Ning Xuefei held Lin-Yi's arm and said, "Well, I know." After Lin-Yi nodded to Qin Xingma beside him, he immediately set out for the arena. He was not only fearless, but also a little impatient. It was rare for him to meet such a powerful opponent like Long Rufeng. After experiencing yesterday's crushing defeat, his blood was once again boiling. Some people were born to fight, and a strong opponent could not make him afraid, but excited. When the three of them arrived at the arena, they were surprised by the scene in front of them. It was just the morning when the sun had just risen, but the arena was already crowded with people. Long Rufeng had been waiting for a long time on the main arena. Obviously, the audience under the arena came to see him. The Grim Machete God had almost become the name card of Soaring Cloud Academy. Everyone here knew Long Rufeng. Chapter 4800. When Linny stood still on the ring, there were people in the audience who took the initiative to light incense for them. Everyone was looking forward to the second battle between the two. Of course, no one here was optimistic about Lin Yi. They simply wanted to see Long Rufin make his move. They wanted to see how powerful the cold-faced saber god was. That was all. Hee, Long Rufin is finally enlightened. It's rare to see killing intent on his body. It seems that he wants to kill Lin Yi. He should have done this long ago. Ren Zhongyuan looked at the scene and smiled proudly. It's normal. Long Rufin is not a good-tempered person. Yesterday, he was fooled by Lin Yi. It would be strange if he didn't get serious. If he was fooled by Lin Yi like yesterday, where would he put his face? Yi Xiaotian had an expression as if he had expected it. Not bad, not bad. Hurry up and fight. I'm already impatient. Ren Zhongyuan's face was filled with indescribable resentment. In the past 2 days, his father, Ren Tianxua, had helped him resolve the murderous aura of the 5 elements in his body. Every time, he had to endure inhuman pain, which almost tortured him to the point of collapse. He hated Lin Yi to the bone and wished that this kid would be torn into pieces. At this moment, the 2 people on the ring had once again set up their stances. Long Rufin used the world of ice and snow as soon as he came up, holding a giant ice blade in his hand. Lin Yi also entered the extreme state without saying a word. There was no other way. If he didn't do this, he wouldn't be able to play at all. It had to be said that even if it was greatly weakened by the world of ice and snow, the speed displayed by the extreme butterfly subtle steps was still extraordinary. In particular, it was extremely agile in dodging and turning. Lin Yi actually avoided Long Rufin's blade without any danger. Long Rufin once again looked at Lin Yi in surprise. It seemed that this guy not only recovered from his injuries, but even his true chi had returned to its peak state. How did he do it? It should be known that even for him, although he did not expend much energy in the battle yesterday, it was impossible for him to completely replenish his energy in one night. There were still some losses. This was a problem that almost all practitioners had to face. It was refreshing to fight, but it was a long process to recover. Long Rufin's recovery speed was already very fast. In yesterday's battle, he had lost about 30% of his true chi, and after one night, he had recovered about 20%. In other words, the amount of true chi in his body was only 90% of his peak. Of course, even if Long Rufin only had 30% of his true chi left, he would still be able to defeat Lin Yi. This would not affect the result at all. However, when facing the lively Lin Yi, Long Rufin subconsciously became a bit wary, but then he felt like he was making a big deal out of nothing. In yesterday's battle, he had clearly seen Lin Yi's strength. Although Lin Yi had many tricks up his sleeves, in the end, he could not overcome the huge gap in strength. Why would he be afraid of this guy? Long Rufin could not help but laugh. After staying in the Xuanjiesi for so long, he had really become paranoid. He thought that this place was as strong as that place. It was too ridiculous. Looking at Long Rufin suddenly laughing for no reason, Lin Yi was slightly shocked. What the hell was this person doing? However, he would not think so much. Since the opponent was distracted, then this was a rare flaw and opportunity. Lin Yi did not hesitate to get close to Long Rufin. There was already a huge gap in strength. If he continued to blindly defend, he would really have no chance at all. He had to seize the opportunity to attack with all his strength and replace defense with offense. A blue electric arc flashed out of thin air and directly attacked Long Rufin along the giant ice blade. After a whole night of recovery and thinking, this was the best starting move that Lin Yi could think of. It did not seek to kill, but to paralyze. As long as this electric arc could have a momentary paralyzing effect, it could create an opportunity for the next strong attack. Only in this way could he have a chance to win. Sure enough, Long Rufin directly fell into a state of paralysis like yesterday, and his movements obviously became a lot slower and stiffer. At the same time, Lin Yi flashed in front of him, and the most powerful 5 elements murderous aura suddenly attacked with a dragon roar. Long Rufin's heart skipped a beat. and he was forced to stagger back 2 steps. This scene suddenly made the audience exclaim. It seemed that the West Island's Fuma was going to turn over a new leaf, but soon they knew that they thought too much. After Long Rufin was forced back 2 steps, he forcibly got rid of the state of paralysis and suddenly attacked. The 5 elements' murderous aura close at hand was directly cut into 2 pieces, and Lin Yi was blasted away by the aftermath of the knife momentum. All his efforts were in vain. As Lin Yi wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, he couldn't help but think it was a pity. When he looked up, he found that the corner of Long Rufin's mouth was also bloody, and he immediately understood what was going on. Long Rufin's injury was not caused by his 5 elements' murderous aura, but by biting his tongue in order to break the state of paralysis. Under the stimulation of the sharp pain, he naturally wouldn't feel numb anymore. Long Rufin was really a tough opponent to deal with in an instant. The arena fell into a brief confrontation again. Long Rufin was re-examining his opponent, while Lin Yi was thinking about the next step to deal with it. The thunder and lightning started with the most powerful 5 elements' murderous aura. This was the simplest and most effective powerful combo he could think of. It was a pity that this kind of routine could be used unexpectedly once, but it would be ineffective if it was used for the second time. He had to think of another way. Without waiting for Long Rufin to make a move, Lin Yi suddenly used the extreme butterfly subtle steps again. He still started with the power of thunder and lightning. This was a time-tested move. Even someone as strong as Long Rufin couldn't effectively deal with it in a short time. He could only rely on his powerful strength to withstand it, and at the same time, suppress the paralysis effect to the minimum. Unavoidable speed and domineering lethality. It was precisely because of these 2 advantages that all practitioners of the thunder attribute were terrified. It was also because of this that any practitioner of the thunder attribute was almost invincible among those of the same level. However, there were very few practitioners of the thunder attribute in this world. Most people might not even see one in their entire lives. Now, Lin Yi could only be regarded as a half-baked thunder element cultivator at most. He only had speed but no lethality. Otherwise, with his strength, he could really deal with Long Rufin. Feeling the familiar thunder and lightning paralysis again, Long Rufin frowned slightly. Although he had gradually begun to adapt to this feeling and the paralysis effect was getting weaker, he still couldn't help but be a little angry when Lin Yi did it again and again. Bang! 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 Chapter 4801. Attacking while restraining was the backup plan that Lin Yi came up with. Only by ensuring that he had enough speed could he avoid the opponent's ice blade. Although the 1,000 legs of frenzy did not cause much damage, as long as he persisted, it would accumulate. What Lin Yi was least afraid of was the consumption of true qi. Since there was no chance of winning in a head-on confrontation, then he would fight with attrition. As long as there was time, Lin Yi could replenish it. Although this strategy was a bit shameless, as long as he could win, who cared so much? The restraining strategy was played well, and Long Rufin seemed to be completely led by the nose. However, after a while, his voice suddenly sounded in the chaos. "Is this all you have?" Lin Yi was shocked when he heard this, and then the warning sound of the jade pendant rang crazily in his mind. He immediately withdrew with all his strength without hesitation. Not only did he use the extreme butterfly microstep, this time he even used the skill of the true Qi Jet. In order to escape, he had to be as fast as possible. It might be the difference between life and death. The giant ice blade was almost close to the tip of Lin Yi's nose, and a terrible wound was instantly created on his face by the aftermath. At the same time, the majestic knife momentum once again blasted Lin Yi to the ground. The situation was the same as yesterday. The only difference was that this time, Lin Yi was more seriously injured, and he could not get up for a long time. Long Rufin walked to the front of Lin Yi and was about to force Lin Yi to admit defeat. But at this time he heard Ning Shuifei shouting, "The incense has been extinguished. The time is up." Ahem. Lin Yi climbed up from the ground with difficulty and staggered down the arena. He left a sentence that was very familiar to Long Rufin but made him speechless. "It seems that my luck is good. Let's continue tomorrow." Watching Lin Yi's awkward back disappear from his sight, Long Rufin was stunned on the arena and could not say a word. Below the arena, Ren Zhongwen was so angry that he stomped his feet and scolded, "This trash. He couldn't even kill a mere Lin Yi, and even this kind of trash could go to the profound steppe region. No wonder he was beaten back." He was about to go mad with anger. Yesterday, Lin Yi had escaped from a calamity, but today, he actually did it again. Was there an end to this? But no matter how angry Ren Zhongyuan was, there was nothing he could do. Unless he dared to throw caution to the wind and hit Lin Yi in private, he could only wait for the result of the battle in the arena. As for assassinating West Island's Fuma inside the academy, Ren Zhongyuan really did not have the guts to do so. The only good news was that he'd managed to get away with it for the past 2 days. But the kid had sustained quite a bit of injuries as well. At the very least, they were on par in terms of suffering. Ren Zhongyuan could only comfort himself like that. The next day, when Lin Yi appeared on the arena again, Long Rufin couldn't help but feel numb in his scalp again. This guy actually returned to his peak state again. Just like the previous 2 days, this time, Lin Yi was still beaten. Unfortunately, Long Rufin still failed to kill Lin Yi within 30 minutes. Even if he had the intention to kill, it was useless. Lin Yi's speed seemed to be faster than that of the previous 2 days, and his strength in all aspects seemed to be stronger than before. On the other hand, after 2 consecutive days of consumption, Long Rufin's state inevitably declined a little bit. On the second day, he was still 90%, but on the third day, he was not even 80%. What was more troublesome was that after Lin Yi was injured and left the arena, he was eager to have a try again and said the 4 words, "Continue tomorrow." No one thought that things would develop like this. If he hadn't met Lin Yi, Long Rufin wouldn't believe that he would be used as a sparring partner by a master at the middle stage of Yuanying realm. Yes, Lin Yi regarded him as a rare and excellent sparring partner. To be more precise, he should treat him as a monster to increase his level, because Lin Yi had a strong hunch these 2 days that he was about to break through. From then on, every day, the arena was crowded with people. The fight between the Grim Machete God and the Fuma of West Island was almost a reserved program here. For a time, the name of Lin Yi's undying cockroach spread to everyone. Everyone here knew that there was an undying Fuma in West Island, which made the Grim Machete God feel helpless. For 7 consecutive days, Lin Yi was defeated again and again, but the more he fought, the braver he became. Almost every day, his strength was rapidly improving at a level that was visible to the naked eye. On the contrary, Long Rufin was more and more struggling. A few days ago, he could crush Lin Yi unilaterally, but on the 7th day, when he knocked Lin Yi to the ground again, he himself began to be a little out of breath. Of course, the result was still that Long Rufin had the upper hand, but he still couldn't kill Lin Yi. He could only speechlessly hear the 4 words again, "Continue tomorrow." He thought it was a trivial matter, but he didn't expect it to turn into a war of attrition that lasted for 7 days. The double physical and mental exhaustion made Long Rufin feel that it was simply a nightmare. Of course, Lin Yi was not a strong enemy for him, but to some extent, Lin Yi did make him feel a little tricky. Especially on the 8th day, when he saw Lin Yi again in front of him, Long Rufin was stunned on the spot. He felt that he should take back his previous evaluation. This guy was not only a little tricky, but also quite tricky. He was an out-and-out strong enemy. Because Long Rufin suddenly found that Lin Yi, who was only at the middle stage of nascent soul yesterday, suddenly became at the peak of the middle stage of nascent soul today. This guy not only recovered his state, but also upgraded overnight. Even if he was a super genius with extraordinary talent, when he reached the nascent soul stage, any breakthrough was very difficult. Many people would even go into seclusion for decades just for a single breakthrough. However, this time, Lin Yi opened the eyes of Long Rufin and the others. The day before, he was beaten like a dead dog. In the blink of an eye, the next day, he broke through and upgraded. All in all, it only took 1 night. It was simply unimaginable for ordinary people. Long Rufin, who had always been cold, was gossiping for the first time today. "What medicine did you take?" "Medicine?" Lin Yi shrugged his shoulders and curled his lips. "It's tiring enough to fight with you every day. Where do I have the time to take medicine? Even if I take it, I won't have time to digest it. I'm afraid I'll get indigestion. Long Rufin was speechless. After fighting with Lin Yi for 7 days, his current state was less than 50%. This was the result of taking a recovery pill in the middle of the fight. Otherwise, his state would be even worse. Chapter 4802. For the first 7 days, Long Rufin had been one-sidedly suppressing Lin Yi. But on the 8th day, facing Lin Yi, who was at the peak of the mid-nascent soul stage, he could no longer maintain this dominating and absolute dominance. Both sides actually fought back and forth. There were several times when Lin Yi almost succeeded, causing Long Rufin to break out in a cold sweat. After the time it takes to burn a stick of incense, there was still no clear winner between the two sides. But what was different from before was that Lin Yi had been beaten to the ground for the past 7 days and barely managed to survive. But this time, he stood calmly until the end. Although he was wounded, judging from the previous process, it could barely be considered a draw. Monster. This kid was simply a monster. Looking at the back of Lin Yi's departing figure, Long Rufin's heart was like a stormy sea. Lin Yi's progress these days was not as simple as just leveling up. The other people in the field were just bystanders. Only Long Rufin, who was at the peak of the mid-nascent soul stage, was able to experience the most. Long Rufin himself was a monster, but in his eyes, he was still miles away from Lin Yi. One must know that if he was at the peak of the mid-nascent soul stage, he wouldn't even be able to withstand a single move from Lin Yi, let alone fight back and forth. Thinking of this, Long Rufin's heart had a bad premonition. If this continued, would he really fail miserably? With the pride of the cold-faced saber god, it was simply unthinkable for him to have such concerns. But after so many days, anyone in his position would be anxious. According to this strange trend, it was not impossible for him to fail miserably, but rather, it was very likely. On the 9th day, the two fought for the 9th time in a row. With the rapid improvement of his strength, and at the same time, he became more and more accustomed to Long Rufin's powerful saber momentum. Lin Yi was able to gradually control part of the rhythm of the battle. This was a very gratifying change, because only by controlling the rhythm would he have the chance to laugh at the end. However, on this day, Lin Yi was still beaten like a dog. Not only was it worse than the day before, but it was even worse than the first day. This was the closest he had to death. After a very difficult time, Lin Yi couldn't even get up and could only barely stabilize his body by leaning on Ning Xuefei's body. The reason was not that he underestimated his opponent, but because Long Rufin suddenly recovered to his peak state, and his determination to kill him was far more determined than in the previous 7 days. Needless to say, this guy must have taken the elixir after seeing that the situation was not good, and it was the kind of elixir that could restore all the true qi overnight. In order to nip the hidden danger in the bud, Long Rufin really spent a lot. Unfortunately, he still failed. If the same injury was placed on other people, they would have died 10 times. But Lin Yi stubbornly held on. This kid was really an undying cockroach, worthy of his reputation. Qianxue, don't worry, I will definitely get the beauty pill and the thunder Xin pill. Long Rufin assured young Qianxue, who was disappointed again and again. No matter how much Lin Yi improved, the gap between their strength was always there. As long as he was not consumed too badly, he always held the absolute initiative. However, Long Rufin did not expect that this fight would go on for another 7 days. Lin Yi's strength was still growing rapidly, but he himself was once again consumed to the point where he could not go any further. And this time, he no longer had the 7th grade Qi recovery pill in his hands. After all, he was not like Renzhong Yuan, who had the 7th grade alchemist father as his backing. This kind of expensive consumable, even Long Rufin could not afford it. Not to mention the mental exhaustion, just the little bit of true qi left in his body had already completely forced Long Rufin into a dead end. 30% of true qi was more than enough to deal with Lin Yi 10 days ago. But now, this little bit was not enough at all. However, for young Qianxue, even if he was forced, Long Rufin had to try. If he tried, there was still a chance. If he did not try, there would be nothing. However, when he saw Lin Yi walk into the arena for the 15th time, especially when he noticed the unstable momentum of Lin Yi. He was suddenly dumbfounded. He opened his mouth for a long time, but could not say a word. He could only stare at Lin Yi in a daze. Not only him, but also the audience with a little bit of insight were shocked. Some of them came to support every day, and were very familiar with Lin Yi, the Fuma of West Island. But it was precisely because of this that they were so shocked and dumbfounded. "You broke through again?" Long Rufin finally bit his tongue and said this sentence. How long had it been since the last breakthrough? It seemed to be only about 7 days. Why did this guy's momentum suddenly soar again? Had he already reached the late stage of Yuanying realm? "Thanks to you." Lin Yi smiled faintly. Although he could not fully control his momentum because he had just broken through, he was still very happy. This Long Rufin was simply his lucky star. After fighting with him for half a month, he suddenly rose 2 levels, from the middle stage of Yuanying realm to the late stage of Yuanying realm. Although it was not as exaggerated as rising 2 levels in a row, in the eyes of everyone, it was no different from rising 2 levels in a row. Hearing this light answer, Long Rufin, who rarely scolded people, could not help but curse. It was not because he hated Lin Yi to the bone, but purely because he really did not know how to vent his emotions. "Let's start." Long Rufin suppressed the shock in his heart. This time, he did not dare to let Lin Yi attack first. As soon as he finished speaking, he directly performed Ice and Snow World and attacked Lin Yi with a knife. Lin Yi did not give an inch. With a low dragon roar, he faced the strongest 5 elements' murderous intent. This time, he did not intend to use any tactics. He just wanted to have a good head-on confrontation with the opponent and see how much he could weigh. After experiencing the tempering of actual combat for the past half a month, especially after his strength had risen by 2 levels, Lin Yi's 5 elements' murderous intent had now faintly showed signs of turning into a dragon. Although it was only a vague sign for the time being, this was definitely a very gratifying change. One day, when it truly turned into a dragon, it would be the real and complete version of the 5 elements' murderous intent. It was a pity that the power of thunder and lightning, which also came from the inheritance of the sea-splitting stage, had not improved during this time. It was not that there was no progress at all, but this progress was really negligible compared to the 5 elements' murderous intent. Except for the little numbing effect, it was almost useless against an opponent like Long Rufin. Chapter 4803. The audience was in an uproar, and Long Rufin's face finally showed surprise for the first time. Looking at Lin Yi, who was surging with fighting spirit, he could not help but gasp. It had only been half a month, and this kid had become so strong. Again. Lin Yi was excited and eager to try. For half a month, this was the first time he had a head-on draw with his opponent. Although he knew that this didn't mean that they were evenly matched in strength. After all, the other party's condition had been exhausted previously. If he was at his peak condition, he would definitely be suppressed. Even so, this was still a huge and gratifying improvement. Anyone would find it hard to accept being forced into a draw by an opponent they had been suppressing, let alone someone as proud as Long Rufin. Everyone knew that this guy was going to go all out. Lin Yi was waiting impatiently, but Long Rufin's words stunned him. The audience was in an uproar. "No, I admit defeat." "What?" Lin Yi looked at him in surprise, wondering if this guy was joking. No matter how he looked at it, he did not look like a person who would voluntarily admit defeat. And at most, it was a draw just now. If they continued to fight, it was still unknown who would win and who would lose. Long Rufin did not speak. He turned his head and looked at the noisy audience. Finally, his eyes fell on Yang Qinxue beside the ring, and he shook his head with an apologetic expression. It was not that he did not want to fight. In fact, he did not think that he would lose to Lin Yi at all. At least he could fight until both of them were injured. But what about after that? Unlike Lin Yi, who had just arrived, he could be said to have enemies everywhere. There were countless enemies with backgrounds and strength like Ren Zhongyuan and Yi Xiaotian. After all, the title of Grim Machete God did not come out of nowhere. Every victory meant one more enemy. When he lost the power to protect himself, any one of them could easily kill him. Long Rufin was arrogant, but he wasn't stupid. He knew when to advance and when to retreat. Otherwise, no matter how strong he was, he wouldn't be able to stand out in this place. After carefully looking at Lung Rufin's expression, Linny was finally sure that Lung Rufin wasn't joking. He thought for a moment and said, "All right then, there's no problem with the bet we agreed on, right?" Lung Rufin looked at him deeply. Although he was a little unwilling, he still nodded in agreement. Of course, he didn't have the mood to be a bodyguard, but since he had agreed in advance, he couldn't go back on his word now, right? Very good. Linny immediately laughed. Seeing the other party's serious expression, he added, "Don't worry. Although you became my Feifei's bodyguard because you lost, I won't mistreat you. You'll be rewarded." Payment? Lung Rufin was startled. Although it was not too obvious, there was still a trace of disdain between his brows. At his level, this small amount of spiritual jade was not worth his attention at all, unless the other party could offer a sky-high price of hundreds of thousands. "I'll give you the beauty pill, and then I'll give you an extra Thundershin pill. That's okay, right? There's no other request. In the future, protect Feifei for me in the academy. Don't let Ren Zhongyuan and these idiots harass her," Linny said lightly. As soon as these words came out, the whole audience was in an uproar again. The 7th grade beauty pill and the 7th grade Thundershin pill. Isn't this a big deal too scary? As expected of the prince consort of West Island, it's really rich and overbearing. Lung Rufin looked at Lin Yi and was speechless. After a long time, he squeezed out a sentence. "If you had said so earlier, I wouldn't have fought." He'd put in so much effort to fight Linny for half a month, all for the beauty pill and the lightning mystic pill. He wouldn't have put in so much effort if he'd known that he'd be able to get them even if he surrendered. "Haha, if we don't have a few good fights, how can I know if you're worth this price?" Linny said with a smile. In fact, he was addicted to the sweet fight. He had only fought with Lung Rufin for half a month and had risen 2 levels. In the future, he would often fight with him. Maybe he could rise a few more levels. Of course, this is just Lin Yi's own fantasy. The reason why he was able to upgrade quickly this time was actually largely due to the serious injuries he had suffered in the last trial in West Island. After coming back from the Gate of Hell, he felt like he had been reborn. In addition, he had received the powerful inheritance of the giant electric eel. Although the power of thunder and lightning was not of much use for the time being, it was enough to refine his body. Moreover, in the past half a month, he had been injured every day. In addition to healing himself, Linny had taken no less than 6 gathering nascent soul golden pills to replenish his vitality. With such a huge amount of medicinal power accumulated together, it was natural for him to break through and upgrade. After all, he was a perfect nascent soul. "I'm exhausted. You're such a bad guy." Lung Rufin shook his head speechlessly and smiled with some difficulty. Now he was really physically and mentally exhausted by Lin Yi. If there weren't so many people watching, this cold-faced god of machete would have sat down on the ground without caring about his image. Fortunately, the hard work of this half a month was not in vain. He got the beauty pill and the Thundershin pill at the same time. Now Yang Qinshua's appearance and strength were very likely to be restored to their original state. Congratulations! The 2 people on the stage were all happy, but Ren Zhongyuan, who had just been named by Lin Yi, was really angry. Seeing Lung Rufin, whom he had high hopes for, and Lin Yi shake hands and make peace in public, he was completely dumbfounded. What the hell was going on? He clearly spent a huge price of a beauty pill and racked his brains to provoke a powerful chess piece to deal with Lin Yi. After spending a whole half a month, not only did he not kill Lin Yi, but he also became his bodyguard. The world was too unpredictable. Under the stimulation, Ren Zhongyuan felt that his heart was about to explode. After subconsciously circulating his true qi, he felt a terrible pain in his internal organs. His vision turned black, and he fell to the ground on the spot, which really shocked Xiao and the others. Under the astonished gazes of the onlookers, they could only drag Ren Zhongyuan away like a dead dog. When Ren Zhongyuan finally caught his breath and woke up, they were already in the private room of the restaurant. Xiao and the others did not dare to send him home. Otherwise, if Ren Tianxua asked them, how would they answer? "Brother Ren, you're finally awake." Yi Xiaotian and the others suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. If something really happened to Ren Zhongyuan, they would have to bear the consequences. Chapter 4804. Fortunately, after waiting for a long time, Ren Zhongyuan finally got up and said faintly, "Lin Yi must die. No matter what you think of, you must help me kill Lin Yi, by hook or by crook, regardless of the cost." They looked at each other and no one spoke. In the end, it was Yi Xiaotian who spoke. "Brother Ren, I can understand your feelings, but with our strength, we can't even deal with one Lin Yi, let alone now that there's another one with the surname Long. I'm afraid there's no good way." They were already helpless to deal with Lin Yi, and they were also helpless to deal with Long Rufin. Now that these two guys joined hands, how could they deal with them? Everyone looked at each other speechlessly. Compared with Lin Yi, they were actually more afraid of Long Rufin. After all, this guy's strength was too strong. He was almost invincible among the students of the academy, and everyone was afraid of him. The reputation of the cold machete god was gained by slashing with his saber. Except for Lin Yi, who didn't know anything, there was no one in Soaring Cloud Academy who could match him. Ordinary people would be scared and kneel on the spot when they heard his name. Otherwise, when they wanted to kill people with a borrowed knife, they would not have thought of this guy at once. Ren Zhongyuan frowned and pondered for a long time. After a moment, he suddenly said, "What if we wait until Long Rufin leaves?" "After he leaves?" Yi Xiaotian was stunned, and suddenly clapped his hands and said, "Yes, Lin Yi is really clever. He wants to win over Long Rufin with the Beauty Pill and the Thunder Xin Pill, but in fact, he is simply trapped in a cocoon of his own making. Originally, Long Rufin will stay in the academy to be their bodyguard, but once young Qinshue recovers her appearance and strength, Yes, Brother Ren and Brother Yi are really smart. At that time, Long Rufin will definitely return to the Xuanjiesi area." Li Yuzhou quickly flattered. Sun Baolu added, Yes, the Mystic Step C is an unparalleled temptation for experts like them. A genius like Long Rufin who thinks he's extraordinary will definitely not be willing to stay and be a bodyguard. He will definitely do everything he can to return to the Mystic Step C. That's right. It's never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. As long as we endure this period of time, it won't be too late to make a move on Lin Yi. Ren Zhongyuan's eyes flickered with resentment. If it was possible, he certainly didn't want to endure it. However, there was no other way. Reality forced him to endure it unless his father, Ren Tiansuo, was willing to help. Unfortunately, the possibility of this was very small. If it dragged on for too long, he might not be able to wait, but if it was only 2 or 3 months, then it wouldn't be a problem. Brother Ren, Brother Yi, this plan is good, but there's a loophole. What if Lin Yi can't wait for 2 months and leaves?" Li Yuzhou asked cautiously. "Idiot, isn't it simple? The monk can run away, but the temple can't. As long as Ning Xuefe is still here, even if Lin Yi leaves, it doesn't matter. We can play a little trick and let Ning Xuefe make an accident and seriously injure her. Are we afraid that he won't come?" "Humph." Ren Zhongyuan sneered. They looked at each other and laughed. Although the title of West Island's Fuma was coveted, it was also a burden sometimes. As long as they controlled Ning Xuefe, it was equivalent to controlling Lin Yi. "Is there any risk in this?" Li Yuzhou cautiously reminded them. Ning Xuefe, a little girl who didn't know much about worldly affairs, would naturally be controlled by others. The key was that she was the princess of West Island. Once an accident happened, the entire Soaring Cloud Academy would be shocked. At that time, in order to give a satisfactory explanation to West Island, they would definitely investigate this matter to the end. Even if Ren Zhongyuan and Yi Xiaotian worked together, they might not be able to stop them. "Stupid. I said it was an accident. What's the risk? Anyway, I just seriously injured her, not killed her." Ren Zhongyuan curled his lips disdainfully. As long as it was not irreparable, even if West Island knew it, they wouldn't hold on to it. After all, Soaring Cloud Academy was not weak. His father and Yi Xiaotian's father could support them. That's right. As long as we control it well, it won't be a big problem. Yi Xiaotian nodded and said. When they were secretly discussing in the private room, They didn't know that the target of their discussion was having a dinner in the private room downstairs. Of course, with the high-end design of this restaurant, the soundproofing effect couldn't be so bad. Normally, no matter how good one's hearing was, it was impossible to hear the conversation in the private room upstairs. Moreover, the wall here had the effect of blocking the divine sense. The restaurant had spent a lot of money on this, and the purpose was to ensure the privacy of the guests. Only in this way could they attract high-class guests. At this time, there were a total of 5 people dining together: Lin Yi, Ning Shuefei, Leng Rufeng, and Yang Qianxue. In addition, Chen Xingma was also dragged here. Needless to say, Lin Yi and the other 3 people, even with Chen Xingma's strength, under normal circumstances, she couldn't hear the sound upstairs unless she used some kind of divine sense method. With her self-restraint, she wouldn't do such a thing inexplicably. However, although Lin Yi and the others couldn't hear it, it didn't mean that no one could see through the conspiracy of Ren Zhongyuan and the others. At least the ghost thing knew it clearly. Naturally, the conspiracy of these people fell into Lin Yi's ears without missing a word. After listening to these words, Lin Yi's face changed involuntarily. He really didn't expect that Ren Zhongyuan would hate him so much. In order to deal with him, he even had this kind of insidious idea. Fortunately, it was heard by the ghost thing. Otherwise, it was possible that the other party would succeed. What's wrong? Next to him, Ning Shuefei was eating happily. The table full of East Continent specialties was very appetizing, but she still noticed Lin Yi's strange expression immediately. Chen Xingma, Leng Rufeng, and the others also heard her words and looked over. "Oh, it's nothing." Lin Yi smiled calmly. With a wave of his hand, he took out a delicate wooden box, pushed it in front of Leng Rufeng and Yang Qianxue, and said, "This is the beauty pill. As for the Thunder Xian pill, I still have to refine it on the spot, so you'll have to wait for another 2 days." Leng Rufeng was immediately overjoyed, while Yang Qianxue's eyes lit up as if she had seen a life-saving straw. However, she didn't immediately reach out to take it. Instead, she looked at Lin Yi and Ning Shuefei with some embarrassment. After this period of recuperation, coupled with the fact that she always wore a veil, her mental state was much better than before. At least, she was not as blind and impulsive as before. Now that she thought about it, she was quite embarrassed that she had crazily snatched the beauty pill. In the end, all this happened because of her. Fortunately, the result was still satisfactory. Chapter 4805. You don't have to thank me. This is what we agreed to do. Lin Yi smiled faintly. Putting away the beauty pill, Leng Rufin and Yang Qianxue both nodded gratefully. Until then, Leng Rufin suddenly reacted and said in shock, "You just said that you can refine Thunder Xian pills? Are you a 7th-level alchemist?" Not only Leng Rufin was shocked, but also Chen Xingma next to him. She only knew that Lin Yi was the son-in-law of West Island and a disciple of the 3 pavilions of North Island, but she never knew that he was a 7th-level alchemist. My God, how old is he? Kind of. Lin Yi and Ning Shuefei looked at each other and smiled. Strictly speaking, the alchemy was done by the magic pesticide cauldron, and he himself was just an assistant to inject true qi into the cauldron. He was not a real 7th-level alchemist, but he could really refine Thunder Xian pills easily, and his efficiency was much higher than that of ordinary 7th-level alchemists. Everyone in the box gasped at the same time, including Chen Xingma. They all looked at Lin Yi as if he was a monster. The battle in the past half-month had proved that this guy was a monster, but they really didn't expect that this was just the tip of the iceberg. Leng Rufin looked at Lin Yi in a daze and didn't know what to say for a while. He could only drink a glass of wine to calm himself down. To be honest, he was still a little unwilling to admit that he had lost to Lin Yi. If it were anyone else in his position, it would be impossible for him to be completely convinced. It was only because of the previous bet and Lin Yi's promise to give him the beauty pill and Thunder Xian pill that Leng Rufin was willing to work for him as a bodyguard. But now, he really wanted to worship Lin Yi. He couldn't find another 7th-level alchemist at such a young age in the world. Brother Long, I want to ask, when Miss Yang recovers, will you continue to stay in Shangyun Academy? Lin Yi suddenly asked. After listening to the conspiracy of Ren Zhongyuan and others, This was the most important thing for him to figure out at the moment. Lin Yi quietly waited for the other party's answer. After a long time, Lung Rufin said, 3 months. I will only stay here for 3 months. Only 3 months? Lin Yi immediately frowned. This was exactly what Ren Zhongyuan and the others had expected. That's right. If you don't think it's suitable, you don't have to give me the Thunder Shin pill, and I'll buy the beauty pill at the market price. At the same time, I can be your bodyguard for 3 months. After that, I won't be able to accompany you anymore. I have to get revenge for what happened in the Mystic Steppe Sea. No one can stop me. Long Rufin's face was a bit apologetic, but he was very determined. Lin Yi took a deep look at him, raised his glass, and didn't continue to insist. Just now, he deliberately let Long Rufin know that he was a 7th-grade alchemist. To put it bluntly, he wanted to improve his status and make Long Rufin want to make friends with him. In this way, he wouldn't have to worry about Ning Shuefei having no one to protect her. But looking at Long Rufin's expression, Lin Yi knew that the Mystic Steppe Sea had probably become his obsession. If it weren't for Yang Qianxue, he wouldn't have the patience to continue to stay here. No matter how much Lin Yi persuaded him, it would be useless. At the end of the day, Long Rufin only agreed to this condition because he lost the duel. The two were enemies before, and their relationship was far from that of friends. Since Long Rufin wanted to leave, Lin Yi couldn't stop him. What should he do? Lin Yi suddenly had a headache. Since he couldn't make Long Rufin stay, he had to continue to stay in the East Continent. After all, Ning Shuefei's safety was the first priority. But he couldn't stay here all the time. He had upgraded 2 levels in half a month. Now, simple meditation and cultivation could no longer meet the needs. Whether it was to consolidate his strength as soon as possible or to continue to seek the opportunity to break through to the next level, Lin Yi had to go outside. It was not his style to stay in one place for a long time for closed-door cultivation. But although it was a headache, Lin Yi didn't make things difficult for Long Rufin. 3 months was 3 months, and he had to think of other ways to deal with the things after that. Thank you. Long Rufin was both grateful and apologetic. Speaking of which, he was a little immoral in this matter, but he wouldn't change his mind. 3 months later, he had to go to the Mystic Sea region to settle things. Lin Yi smiled and didn't say anything. After sending Long Rufin and Yang Qianxue off, and agreeing to meet up with Yang Qianxue after she took the beauty pill, Lin Yi, Ning Shuefei, and Chun Xingma returned to the newcomer's courtyard. Only then did Lin Yi tell them everything. What? They're actually so bold? Chen Xingma was instantly shocked. Ning Shuefei wasn't too worried, but the 3 of them discussed it. In the end, they still went to Chenjiao Academy and called Lu Ziyu and Hui Yudi over. Just half a day later, Lu Ziyu and Hui Yudi hurried over. This matter concerned Ning Shuefei's future safety, and they couldn't afford to be careless. The 5 of them sat in a circle around the table, all of them frowning. Even Lu Ziyu and Chen Xingma couldn't think of an effective way to deal with it. If they did something, it would be easy. As long as we have evidence, we can ask the Academy to step in at any time. At the very least, we can put them under house arrest. But now, we have no proof. Sigh. Chen Xingma sighed. Although she was the Academy's vice dean, because of her personality, she wasn't a powerful person in the Academy's upper echelon. In terms of status and authority, she was far inferior to Ran Tianxua. If she wanted to rely on a few words to warn Ren Zhongyuan and the others, it was almost impossible to have any effect. On the other hand, Lu Ziyu was a powerful person, but unfortunately, she was in Qianjiao Academy and had no reason to interfere with Soaring Cloud Academy's matters. Her authority in this matter was even lower than Chen Xingma's. Seeing that everyone was frowning, Ning Shuefei said, "Actually, it's not that serious. As long as I stay with Master, they won't be able to do anything to me. Those people can't be so daring as to play tricks in front of Master, right?" "That's true, but Feifei, you can't be with Xingma all the time, right? You can be a thief for 1,000 days, but you can't guard against thieves for 1,000 days. As time goes on, someone will definitely catch you and take advantage of you." Lu Ziyu smiled bitterly and shook her head. "Then why don't I move over to accompany Feifei?" Hui Yudi blinked and suggested. Everyone's eyes instantly lit up. Lu Ziyu couldn't just move over to protect Ning Shuefei, but Hui Yudi could. As long as Qin Xingma went to apply for a spot as an exchange disciple, she could stay here permanently. The two of them could be companions, and Hui Yudi's strength wasn't weak, so she could protect Ning Xuefei at her side. Chapter 4806. Hui Yudi's strength wasn't weak, but Ren Zhongyuan and the others weren't easy to deal with either. If they really wanted to cause trouble, it was very likely that even Hui Yudi would be wiped out. Therefore, this could only be their last resort. If they wanted to truly protect Ning Xuefei, they had to find a bodyguard as intimidating as Long Rufin. Unfortunately, in the entire Soaring Cloud Academy, there was only one Long Rufin. Otherwise, if it was really so easy to find a few, Long Rufin wouldn't be as terrifying as he was now. In the end, the crisis meeting couldn't come to a conclusion. But since she was already here, Hui Yudi couldn't bear to go back just like that, so she specifically stayed for a few more days. It was fine with Ning Xuefei, but she and Lin Yi didn't have many opportunities to see each other. After 3 days, Hui Yudi reluctantly left. If it wasn't for the fact that the Morning Pride Academy was about to have a disciple assessment, she wanted to stay until Lin Yi left. Unfortunately, things didn't go as she wished. After sending off Lu Ziyu and Hui Yudi, other than Qin Xingma who came from time to time, the entire newcomer courtyard was only left with Lin Yi and Ning Xuefei. This was exactly what Ning Xuefei wanted. It was another rare time for the two of them. But before the two of them could start to flirt, a person suddenly came in. It was Long Rufin. It wasn't known whether this guy was born like this or trained to be like this. From the first time Lin Yi saw him, he always had the same cold expression. It was very rare to see his face change, but this time, this guy actually had an indescribable worried expression. "What's wrong, Brother Long?" Lin Yi's heart moved. For Long Rufin to be so worried, it was most likely that something happened to young Qianxue. Long Rufin looked at Lin Yi and sighed. Qianxue took the beauty pill, but it only had half of the effect. Only half of the effect? Lin Yi was stunned. The beauty pill was a 7th-rank medicinal pill. Normally, it should be easy to restore one's appearance. Could it be that there was a problem with the pill? It didn't seem like it. Back then, when he had obtained the beauty pill, he had personally checked it. The burns on Qianxue's face have healed, but the wounds that were invaded by the venom still haven't healed. It's all because of those damn bastards. Damn it. Long Rufin's eyes spat out fire as he spoke. He heavily slammed his fist on the heavy stone table. His fist, which was not wrapped in any force, was immediately stained with blood. Venom? Lin Yi recalled what he had seen at that time. Although he had only taken a quick glance, the condition on young Qianxue's face was indeed shocking. It was much more serious than all the cases he had seen before. In particular, the wounds that had been soaked by the venom did not heal for a long time. It could be said that the venom had penetrated deep into the bone marrow. The beauty pill alone might not be effective. Long Rufin immediately stopped talking. He sullenly sat on the ground in the yard, officially acting as Ning Xuefei's bodyguard. The beauty pill's failure to completely restore young Qianxue's appearance was his own fault. This could not be blamed on Lin Yi. Therefore, even though his heart was in a mess, he still had to fulfill the agreement. Seeing this, Lin Yi did not say anything. After saying goodbye to Ning Xuefei, he returned to the house. He had promised to give Long Rufin a thunder profound pill. These 3 days, because he had been with Hui Yudi and Ning Xuefei, he did not have time to spare. Now that Long Rufin was guarding him, he did not have to worry about Ning Xuefei's safety, so he could refine the pill in peace. 1 day later, when Lin Yi walked out of the door, he already had 8 more Thunder Profound pills on him. He did not use all the Thunder Profound Vine at once. This time, he only used about a quarter of it. Anyway, the Thunder Profound Vine was placed in the space of the Jade Pendant, and he often used the power of thunder to nourish it, so he did not have to worry about it withering. If there was no accident, these 8 Thunder Profound pills were already enough. After all, the Thunder Profound pill could only be used when attacking the Profound Ascension stage and dealing with the Thunder Tribulation. It was not like the Gathering Nascent Soul Golden pill, which could also be used as a supplement. Unless it was used as a gift, there was no need for so many. The remaining Thunder Profound Vine could be used for other purposes. In addition to the Thunder Profound pill, as far as Lin Yi knew, It was also an important material for several other 7th grade or even higher grade pills. Good steel should be used on the edge of the blade, so it would be of greater use when the time came. Brother Long, this Thunder Profound pill can be given to you. Even if Miss Yang's appearance cannot be restored for a while, the matter of her strength realm cannot be delayed. Otherwise, when her realm completely falls, it will really be impossible for her to return to the profound ascension stage. Lin Yi advised. Thank you. Lung Rufin took the Thunder Profound pill with a complicated expression and shook his head with a bitter smile. I also advised her like this, but her appearance has become a problem for her. If this problem is not removed and she rashly breaks through, I'm afraid it will become a demon in her heart. Then it will really be unimaginable. It was innate for women to love beauty. No woman would really not take their appearance seriously, especially a beauty like young Qinxue who was disfigured to this extent. No one could bear such a big gap. It was already very rare for her to be able to hold on until now without a mental breakdown. During this time, you should spend more time with her. When Feifei has me here, there should be no problem. Lin Yi sighed. Lung Rufin nodded gratefully and immediately took the Thunder Profound pill to find young Qinxue. To be honest, he was really worried about young Qinxue's mental state. Before, he could pin all his hopes on the beauty pill, but now that the beauty pill was useless, it was hard to guarantee that she would not do something stupid after her hope was shattered. At times like this, what young Qinxue needed the most was Lung Rufin's company. In the following month, Lung Rufin did exactly that. In the face of young Qinshue's shocking disfigurement, he really didn't leave her. Every day, he racked his brains to comfort young Qinshue, constantly comforting her. He would definitely find a solution. In the next month, in addition to accompanying young Qinshue and Ning Shuefei, Lung Rufin spent the rest of the time asking people for ideas. Even Lin Yi couldn't help but be moved. This cold knife god was really a person with a cold face but a warm heart. On this day, while Lung Rufin was stationed in the newcomer's courtyard, he was writing letters to people. Needless to say, he was trying to find ways to ask people for help. Usually, asking for help was simply a whimsical thing. But for young Qinshue, he had thrown all his pride and self-esteem aside, just to find a glimmer of hope for his beloved woman. Brother Lung, do you have time? I want to talk to you about something. Lin Yi suddenly said. What is it? Lung Rufin was still writing rapidly and asked without raising his head. Chapter 4807. Qinshue? Lung Rufin froze and dropped the pen. He looked up at Lin Yi nervously. Lin Yi was speechless. Love was the most mysterious thing in the world. After all, what had happened to the cold-faced knife god? This scene was like a primary school student caught cheating on a test. Not bad. I've seen it for a month. Brother Long, you're really infatuated with love. You can't go on like this. I can't bear it. So I'm going to make an exception and help Miss Yang recover her face. Lin Yi looked at Lung Rufin. Lung Rufin was shocked. He looked at Lin Yi from head to toe and said in disbelief, You're not trying to stall for time, are you? Are you trying to find an excuse to look for herbs and make me protect Miss Ning? I don't even need to think to know what Renjong Yuan and the others are thinking. But I've said it before, I'm going to the Mystic Sea in 2 months no matter what. So you know that too? Lin Yi couldn't help but be surprised. Lung Rufin and Renjong Yuan had been enemies for many years. He knew them better than he did. He nodded immediately. You're half right. I do want you to stay, but I want you to protect Feifei for me sincerely. I'm not trying to stall you. Lung Rufin was silent for a moment. His face was still full of doubt. Lin Yi was indeed a person that made him look at him in a different light. Whether it was his amazing strength or his identity as a 7th-level alchemist, he was far from being a normal person. Even he couldn't compare to Lin Yi. But it was ridiculous to say that Lin Yi could help Qinshue recover her face. Even the beauty pill didn't work. What other way could he do? After asking around for a whole month, Lung Rufin felt that the only reliable way was to find a medical saint like Zhang Liju. Other than that, he didn't believe in anything else. How can I trust you? Lung Rufin asked with a tiny bit of hope. I'll tell you a secret, but don't tell anyone else. It might bring me trouble, Lin Yi said seriously. Tell me, I'm not a talkative person, Long Rufin's heart was filled with hope after seeing Lin Yi's serious face. Lin Yi smiled and said after a while, "All right, I'm actually Zhang Liju's last disciple." "What?" Long Rufin's face paled as he almost cried out in shock. He looked at Lin Yi from head to toe as he digested the shocking news. This guy was the disciple of Miracle Dr. Dan, Zhang Liju. This was something many people would do, especially Zhang Liju, who was one of the strongest in the 5 Sky-class islands. Liju. There were many people who used his name. But under normal circumstances, no one would believe him. But after Long Yi, Long Rufin, and Lin Yi, Lin Rufin, it wasn't that he believed in Lin Yi's character. It was because all the signs from before were the best evidence. Putting aside Lin Yi's strength, this guy had been beaten up like a dead dog every day when they fought, and yet he was able to recover to his peak condition the next day. How was it possible that he didn't know anything about medicine? Plus, Lin Yi was a level 7 elixir refiner. Without a master like Zhang Liju, who could teach such a young level 7 elixir refiner. All of this proved that Lin Yi was indeed Zhang Liju's last disciple. There was no exaggeration in this statement. You can really cure Qianxue? Long Rufin was excited. He thought that Zhang Liju was the only one who could cure young Qianxue, but it wasn't easy to meet someone like Zhang Liju. He might not get the chance even if he searched for 10 or 20 years. Now, he suddenly found Zhang Liju's last disciple. It was like a gift to him. Yes, I've thought about it. Although it's hard, and I need to pay a big price, the chance of success is not small. Lin Yi nodded. The reason why he purposely used Zhang Liju's name was to find a convincing excuse for his all-purpose pure energy. After all, Long Rufin wasn't really on his side yet. What if the news got out after he cured young Qianxue? In this world, only by using the name of a tiger could he quickly gain the respect and trust of others. This was something Lin Yi realized in the last West Island trial. As soon as he brought up the name of Shanghai Tianhua's personal disciple, people like Ren Zhongyuan would immediately look up to him. Now, from Long Rufin's performance, it seemed that the title of Zhang Liju's last disciple was also very useful. Of course, Lin Yi wasn't the kind of person to brag. He really was Zhang Liju's disciple. It was just that he hadn't met this cheap master yet, so he couldn't officially register. If that's the case, I'll go get Qianxue. I'll leave everything to you, Brother Lin. Long Rufin was so excited that he used his strongest movement technique on the spot. He turned into an icicle and disappeared, leaving only a pile of ice shards on the ground. Lin Yi paused. When he fought with Long Rufin before, he didn't use this move. It seemed like he wasn't using his full strength. Of course, in front of his continuous energy consumption, Long Rufin couldn't maintain his peak condition at all. He had to make sure that every bit of qi was used on the blade to keep the stalemate going. As for this kind of movement technique that used up a lot of qi but couldn't decide the outcome of the battle, naturally, it was best not to use it. After a while, Long Rufin excitedly brought young Qianxue over. These days, young Qianxue was a little dispirited, but her eyes were very bright when she looked at Lin Yi. Evidently, she already knew that Lin Yi was Zhang Liju's last disciple. She saw hope in the midst of despair. Fei, you and Lung Bro stay outside. It shouldn't be too long, Lin Yi instructed, and immediately brought young Qianxue into the room. After entering the room and sitting down, Lin Yi signaled for young Qianxue to take off her veil. Young Qianxue struggled and hesitated, but under Lin Yi's encouraging gaze, she finally took off her veil with difficulty. In the past, she would lose control every time she took off her veil, but after so long, she could barely control her emotions. Chapter 4808. Don't be nervous. Give me your hands. Lin Yi smiled. Oh. Young Qianxue looked at him in confusion, but in the end, she still extended her hands. Unlike her ferocious and terrifying face, her hands could be said to be like ice and jade, full of fairy-like aura. Lin Yi also extended his hands to meet hers. The touch was cool but refreshing. She was indeed a rare beauty, but he didn't want to take advantage of her. If he wanted to treat her, he had to channel all-purpose true qi. This process couldn't be obstructed by clothes. There was no other way but to meet her palms. After all, he couldn't let young Qinxue take off her clothes in front of him. Through her palm, young Qinxue suddenly felt a warm stream of spiritual qi enter her body and rise to her face along her 8 extraordinary meridians. Her face suddenly felt a little itchy and a little numb. She couldn't help but want to scratch it, but she resisted the urge. After going on like this for about an hour, young Qinxue suddenly felt that something seemed to be flowing down her face. When she took a closer look, it was actually dark green venom. She was instantly shocked. "Don't move. It'll be over soon." Lin Yi comforted her. Young Qinxue was still a little panicked, but she didn't move after hearing this. She just watched as the horrifying venom flowed down her face bit by bit until it fell on the floor. The venom accumulated bit by bit. Young Qinxue couldn't help but tremble. This was a nightmare she had every time she closed her eyes. It was the venom that almost broke her mind. She was muddle-headed all day, and sometimes she even wanted to die. Another hour passed, and finally, no more venom flowed down from her face. Young Qinxue only felt that her face was getting more and more itchy. She suddenly had an epiphany, and she became excited. Could this be a sign that her wounds were healing? After a slightly long wait, Lin Yi finally withdrew his true qi from young Qianxue's body. He turned around and took out a mirror and handed it to her. "Take a look for yourself." Young Qianxue took the mirror with trepidation. She didn't dare to open her eyes. She had experienced it once a month ago. She didn't want to go through it again. The feeling of having one's last hope shattered could really make people break down. But in the end, she still opened her eyes with great difficulty. When she saw the face in the mirror that seemed to have been reborn, she immediately froze. "How is it?" Seeing Lin Yi walk out with a pale face, Long Rufeng, who had been guarding the door like a headless fly for 4 hours, quickly went up to greet him. His usually expressionless face was now filled with anxiety and nervousness. "See for yourself." Lin Yi waved his hand weakly. Actually, this was all an act for the other party to see. With the jade pendant to replenish his true qi at any time, he did not expend much energy at all. But since he was putting on a show, he had to go all the way. Even if he said that he was Zhang Liju's disciple, this wasn't something that could be done easily. He had to pretend that there was a price to pay. Seeing Lin Yi's expression that looked like he was about to faint at any time, Long Rufen's expression suddenly changed. He thought that the treatment had failed, so he hurriedly shouted for Qianxue to rush into the room. However, before he could enter the room, young Qianxue had already walked out first. "Qianxue, you?" Long Rufen was stunned. He stared blankly at young Qianxue's beautiful face, and his expression instantly turned into indescribable joy. "Qianxue, you're okay." Seeing the cold blade god jumping around like a child, Lin Yi and Ning Xuefei couldn't help but smile at each other. Young Qianxue, on the other hand, was moved to tears. She walked up and hugged Long Rufen tightly. A hug was better than 1,000 words. This was the darkest period of young Qianxue's life. She had lost too much, and even wanted to end it countless times. But compared to what she had lost, what she had gained was actually more valuable. A friend in need is a friend indeed. She had found a man who was truly worthy of her life. "Are you okay?" Ning Xuefei's eyes were red from the scene in front of her, but she was still more worried about Lin Yi's condition. Lin Yi's pale face not only fooled Long Rufen, but also her. "I'm fine." Lin Yi smiled slightly. He gently hugged Ning Xuefei. To be honest, looking at Long Rufen and young Qianxue was quite touching. He couldn't help but think of his group of female friends. Compared to Long Rufen, who had always been by young Qianxue's side, he was far inferior in this aspect. At this time, Long Rufen suddenly let go of young Qianxue, walked a few steps in front of Lin Yi, and directly knelt down in front of everyone's surprised eyes. This time, not only Lin Yi and Ning Xuefei, but even young Qianxue was shocked. Long Rufen's pride was deeply rooted in his bones. Except for his master, no one in the world could make him kneel, no matter how strong or how high his status was. But today, he chose to kneel down in front of Lin Yi. "Brother Long, what are you doing?" Lin Yi hurriedly reached out to help him up. He cured young Qianxue in order to let him stay to protect Ning Xuefei, not to make him kneel down in front of him. However, Long Rufen pushed Lin Yi's hand away and said solemnly, I, Lung Rufin, have never admired anyone in my life, but I admire you. Brother Lin, although your realm is lower than mine, your strength is much stronger than mine. I have never seen a genius like you. I can't repay your kindness. From now on, you are my boss, and Miss Ning is my sister-in-law. Don't worry, before Miss Ning leaves Shangyun Academy, I will always stay here. Lung Rufin had never been a person who was good with words. His words could be said to be abrupt, but everyone present knew that his words were absolutely sincere. This guy was cold on the outside but warm on the inside. Most of the time, he seemed to be unapproachable and difficult to get along with, but in fact, after getting along with him for a long time, people would know that he was a sincere person. The strong were respected. These 4 words were absolutely deeply rooted in people's hearts on the Heaven Stage Island. Even a man as arrogant as Lung Rufin regarded this as a golden rule. No matter from which aspect, Lin Yi would undoubtedly be a rare super strong person in the world. At least he absolutely had the potential. As for the realm of strength, with his super strong potential, it was only a matter of time before Lin Yi reached the Xinsheng realm or even the mountain opening realm. For a discerning person like Lung Rufin, this was not a problem at all. In addition, Lin Yi had shown his tolerance and character during this period of time, so Lung Rufin was really convinced. Chapter 4809. If Yang Qianxue, who was equally powerful, was included, it was simply a buy one get one free. He suddenly had a pair of powerful husband and wife subordinates. This was really a rare surprise. Boss, since I have already recognized you as my boss, then there should be a difference in seniority. Don't call me Brother Lung, just call me by my name. Lung Rufin said seriously. Okay, then I will call you Rufeng. Lin Yi smiled. Although this guy's face was cold and his words were cold, he unexpectedly paid attention to the rules in this kind of thing. Lin Yi then asked, Rufeng, didn't you say that you must go to the Xuanjiesi to settle things? Why did you suddenly change your mind? That's what I thought before, but at that time, I was just like Qianxue. I was driven by the desire for revenge and lost all rationality. But now, I've thought it through. Instead of rushing to my death again, I might as well stay here and complete the task boss entrusted me with. I might as well find a way to improve my strength, Lung Rufin explained. At the same time, Lung Rufin and Yang Qianxue looked at each other and smiled. The reason why he could let go of this obsession was obviously because Yang Qianxue had recovered. He couldn't bring his beloved who had finally regained a new life to die. Well, now that Miss Yang's heart has been removed, the top priority is to return to the Xuanjie stage as soon as possible, and after that, you also need to cultivate for a period of time, including Rufeng, Lin Yi suggested. After fighting for half a month, he was very familiar with Lung Rufin. During that time, this guy's breathing was obviously unstable, which was also why Lin Yi continued to consume his energy. Otherwise, it would be a different result. In the following month, because of Yang Qianxue's matter, Lung Rufin didn't have time to recuperate and cultivate, so until now, he hadn't been able to fully recover. Fortunately, Yang Qianxue had recovered and was now working as Ning Xuefei's bodyguard. He finally had time to recuperate and cultivate. Boss, don't worry, I know what to do. Lung Rufin nodded. Right, I've wanted to ask this question for a long time. Is the profound step C really so dangerous? Lin Yi suddenly asked. Lung Rufin's strength didn't need to be mentioned. He could easily suppress Lin Yi even before he recovered, and if Yang Qianxue recovered to the profound ascension stage, her strength would definitely not be weak. Such a powerful combination was actually beaten so miserably. It was really a bit frightening. Lung Rufin and Yang Qianxue looked at each other and smiled bitterly. The atmosphere couldn't help but become slightly heavy when he recalled that encounter, and he went silent for a moment before he said slowly, Boss, don't be fooled by the various Yellow Order academies in the East Continent that are filled with both open and veiled strife and are filled with danger. But when compared to the profound rank Oceanic Domain, all of this pales in comparison. That's a place that truly devours people. Really? Lin Yi raised his brows slightly. After staying here for a month and a half, he could not help but feel that the East Continent Academy was just so. Except for Lung Rufin, None of the other disciples of Soaring Cloud Academy could catch his attention. However, after listening to Long Rufin's words, Linny suddenly changed his mind. It seemed that if there was a chance, he really had to go to the profound rank oceanic domain to have a good look. Long Rufin surrendered to Lin Yi, and the Grim Machete God officially became the trump card of the West Island's Fuma. No one knew who spread the news, but it spread like wildfire. Soon, it caused a sensation in the entire Soaring Cloud Academy. Although Long Rufin suffered a big loss in the profound rank oceanic domain, he was still a leading figure among the disciples of Soaring Cloud Academy. Everyone knew that this guy was full of pride. Now, he was willing to become someone else's subordinate, and the opponent was a master of the nascent soul stage who was a whole realm lower than him. This was simply incredible. Others were just talking about it as a piece of news, but when Ren Zhongyuan heard about it, he directly blacked out and fell down on the spot. When he woke up, it was already 2 days later. His whole body was weak, and it turned out that he was seriously ill. The murderous spirit of the 5 elements in his body was much more difficult to deal with than he had imagined. Even Ren Tianxua had not been able to resolve it completely. During this period of time, he had been depressed, and he suddenly became angry, so he really deserved to be seriously ill. When Yi Xiaotian came to visit Ren Zhongyuan, he was shocked to see how weak Ren Zhongyuan was. Fortunately, Ren Tianxua was there. Otherwise, given Ren Zhongyuan's current state, once his condition worsened, the consequences would be unpredictable. He thought that Ren Zhongyuan was just ill because of anger. He really didn't expect that a person who was originally a good person could be so angry that he was half dead. It turned out that there were really people in this world who could be angered to death. I'm not willing. Even though he was so weak, Ren Zhongyuan still couldn't forget Lin Yi. He had no strength to gnash his teeth, but the resentment in his eyes became more and more terrible. But even if he was not willing, what could he do? Now that Long Rufin had completely turned to Lin Yi, with such a powerful underling guarding them, their previous plan had completely become a bubble. After all, since he was an underling, how could he leave his boss's woman behind? Not only was Long Rufin's strength so strong that it made others feel helpless, more importantly, Long Rufin knew them inside out. Even the slightest movement could not escape his eyes. Ren Zhongyuan and the others were helpless against him. So what could they do? What made Ren Zhongyuan even more helpless was that even though he was seriously ill, his father, Ren Tianxua, still had no intention of standing up for him. Instead, he ordered him to recuperate and even grounded him. This was what made Ren Zhongyuan the most depressed. Otherwise, if his father was willing to help, Long Rufin would be nothing. In the face of this result, Yi Xiaotian was also very speechless. If he was seriously ill, the old man would have already taken a knife and risked his life. How could he be as calm as Ren Tianxua? He was worthy of being the second senior in the academy. To be able to become the chief alchemist, his shrewdness was really not something that ordinary people could estimate. The two looked at each other for a long time. Seeing that Ren Zhongyuan was so depressed that he was about to vomit blood, Yi Xiaotian suddenly said, "Actually, we have another way, but it depends on whether Brother Ren dares to do it or not." "Say it." Ren Zhongyuan glared and said, "I'm already so sick. What else do I not dare to do? As long as I can kill Lin Yi, I dare to do anything." Hee. My method can be described in 4 words: kill with a borrowed knife. Yi Xiaotian smiled coldly. Chapter 48:10. Brother Ren, the knife I'm talking about is not in our academy. As long as you look a little further, there are many knives that are faster and sharper than Long Rufin. Yi Xiaotian pretended to be profound. "Oh, tell me more about it." Ren Zhongyuan suddenly became interested. When it came to this matter, even his spirit became better. He was not as sick as before. "Brother Ren, have you forgotten that in addition to a group of yellow stage academies in our yellow stage C, there is also a hidden yellow stage branch of the West Mountain Evil Sect?" Yi Xiaotian reminded. "You mean?" Ren Zhongyuan's eyes lit up when he heard this. The West Mountain Evil Sect was an evil cultivation force that everyone hated. Generally, very few people knew that there was a yellow stage branch in the yellow stage C in the East Continent. He and Yi Xiaotian did not know, but during a trial, they met a few evil cultivation masters by chance. Not only did the two sides not fight, but they also temporarily cooperated to get what they needed, so they knew about this secret. Hee, as long as we spend a little bit of money, wouldn't it be easy to find an evil practitioner to kill Lin Yi? Moreover, I guarantee that no one will know, and no one will suspect us. Yi Xiaotian lowered his voice. Yeah, now that you've reminded me, I heard that Lin Yi has a grudge with the West Mountain Elder of the West Mountain Evil Sect. It's a grudge between the two of them. It's reasonable for a heretic master to seek revenge on Lin Yi. It's like a knife that's delivered to their doorstep. Haha. Ren Zhongyuan's spirit was suddenly lifted, and he sat up from the bed. He was a typical person who was in good spirits, and his illness was mostly cured in an instant. After the two of them discussed the specific details, Ren Zhongyuan took 2 7th-grade pills from his father as a bargaining chip, and Yi Xiaotian personally went to find those evil cultivation masters to discuss cooperation. Because there were very few alchemists among evil cultivation masters always lacked high-grade pills the most. Coupled with the conflict between Lin Yi and the West Mountain Old Sect, both sides could be said to hit it off. Just one day later, Yi Xiaotian rushed back to Soaring Cloud Academy. How is it? Did they agree? Ren Zhongyuan asked impatiently. It's settled. A late-stage profound ascension expert named Shishan Supreme Expert is prepared to personally deal with Lin Yi. As long as this brat leaves our academy, he will immediately make a move. Yi Xiaotian chuckled. Profound Ascension late-stage master? Ren Zhongyuan was overjoyed. He thought that the other party would at most send an ordinary profound ascending stage expert. He didn't expect it to be a profound ascending late-stage expert. To be able to invite such an expert with just 2 grade 7 dawn, it was really a huge profit. Speaking of which, it's also luck. This Shishan Almighty is looking for a way to get close to the Shishan Old Sect, so when he heard about Lin Yi's matter, he became excited. Otherwise, he really wouldn't have been able to invite him. Yi Xiaotian rejoiced. Good. With this West Mountain powerhouse personally taking action, Lin Yi is already a dead man. Ren Zhongyuan laughed and immediately climbed down from the bed. He didn't even care about his father's confinement order. He pulled Yi Xiaotian and said, Let's go for a drink. We have to celebrate this. Ren Zhongyuan was actively plotting again, but Lin Yi was completely unaware of it. Now that he had Lung Rufin and Yang Qinxue to protect him, and with the help of Qin Xingma and Lu Ziyu, Ning Xuefei's safety was no longer a concern. He could finally do some things he wanted to do. And Lin Yi's first plan was naturally to go to the Morning Star Academy. Although he didn't need to worry about Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaodao's situation, since it was rare for him to come to the East Continent, he naturally had to go and have a good gathering with them. Although they were both in the Yellow Tier Sea region, this was the East Continent. Just the Yellow Tier Sea region alone was already bigger than all of the South Continent sea regions combined. So the Morning Star Academy wasn't near here, but fortunately, it wasn't too far. After getting the map from Chan Xingma and studying it carefully, Lin Yi found that even if he didn't use flying spirit beasts, it would only take a few days to get to the Morning Star Academy. Of course, this was based on his own speed. If it was an ordinary nascent soul stage expert, they would have to walk for a month. After all, ordinary people wouldn't be so extravagant as to use martial arts to hurry on the road. Only fools would do so. After settling everything, he specially sent a message to Lu Ziyu and Hua Yudi. After everyone had a meal together, Lin Yi bid farewell to everyone and set off. In these 2 months in the Soaring Cloud Academy, Lin Yi had specially asked Hua Yudi to return to the Morning Pride Academy to investigate something that he was very concerned about. It was the girl from the secular world who had offended Yao Jiali, but was secretly released by Hua Yudi. What was the identity of this girl from the secular world? Was she one of his close female friends? Lin Yi had always been anxious to know the results. However, even though Hua Yudi had spent a lot of effort to investigate, and even Lu Ziyu had come forward to help, they still hadn't found any concrete results. Even the information on the secular world girl from the Morning Pride Academy was very little. Ever since she disappeared, it was as if she had evaporated from the face of the earth. All they knew was that the girl's alias was Little Nian. With regards to this result, Lin Yi felt very helpless. If he only knew that it was an alias, he had no way of confirming who the girl was. After all, coming to a completely unfamiliar place like this, anyone could use an alias. Although he felt helpless, Linny couldn't continue wasting time on this matter. After all, the girl had already disappeared, and there was no point in continuing to stay. It would be better to go to the Morning Star Academy to see Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao. As for the matter of the secular world girl, he could only find out when he had the chance. Ning Xuefei and the others sent him to the academy gates. Just as Lin Yi was about to wave goodbye, a man suddenly walked towards Lin Yi. It seemed like he had been waiting at the gates for a long time. Stop! Without waiting for the man to get close to Lin Yi, Long Rufin suddenly blocked his way. He now considered himself to be Lin Yi's little brother, so naturally he wouldn't let anyone disturb Lin Yi. The man was instantly shocked. With Long Rufin's strength, even if he didn't release his aura, that kind of pressure was not something an ordinary person could withstand. This guy took a few steps back and almost tripped over himself. He seemed to want to say something, but with a glance from Long Rufin, he immediately shut up. Linny glanced at him and didn't say anything, but he couldn't help but laugh in his heart. This guy Long Rufin's deterrence was too ridiculous. He really hadn't taken this little brother for nothing. He was the most suitable bodyguard. Chapter 48:11. Long Rufin frowned, but he didn't move away. He looked at him coldly and said, "What do you want?" Can I talk to Linny face to face? I want to ask him for a small favor, Long Bro." The man stuck his head out and looked at Linny. Just when Long Rufin was about to chase him away, Linny suddenly said, "Forget it. Rufin, let him come." Thank you. The man quickly walked over and bowed to Linny. "Brother Lin, I am Jiang Zhonghai. I heard that you were going to the Morning Star Academy, so I came to ask for a favor." "Oh, Brother Jiang, if you have something to say, just say it." Linny looked at him in surprise. This man was only at the early nascent soul stage, but he knew that Linny was going to the Morning Star Academy. He was quite well informed. Linny didn't tell anyone about this. He only asked Qin Xingma to help him find a map. "It's like this. I have a fiancée named Qinyu. She is also in the Morning Star Academy. We haven't seen each other for 10 years, so I want to ask Brother Lin to bring her a medicinal pill as a token of my sincerity. I will be very grateful." Zhang Hahai sincerely asked, 10 years? Then why don't you go see her yourself? Although the Morning Star Academy is far away, it shouldn't be that hard to go there, right? Lin Yi and the others looked at each other. To be honest, it's not that I don't want to go, but I can't. Zhang Hahai shook his head and sighed. "Brother Lin, you don't know this, but the disciples of the Golden Step Academy are not allowed to go to other academies without permission. Those who can get the quota are either inner disciples or peak nascent soul cultivators. I am not qualified at all." "There is such a thing?" Linny looked at Zhang Hahai and shook his head. In his opinion, Hua Yudi easily came to the Soaring Cloud Academy. He didn't expect that there would be so many difficulties. Yeah, only someone with Big Brother Lin's status and strength can roam the Golden Sea region. As for me, Zhang Hahai smiled awkwardly and said with a gloomy expression, "My fiancée Qin Yu and I were born into a poor family, and we don't have any connections in the academy. I think she should still be at the gold core stage like 10 years ago. So, all right, since you're so devoted to her, I'll help you." Linny nodded. This man's persistence reminded him of himself. Didn't he come all the way here to find a way to wake Miss and you shout her up? "Thank you, Big Brother Lin." Zhang Hahai was overjoyed. He quickly took out the elixirs he had prepared and handed them to Lin Yi. Nascent Soul Golden Core? Lin Yi recognized it at a glance and couldn't help but look at Zhang Hahai in a higher light. This condensed nascent golden pill was a rare treasure for ordinary nascent soul experts, especially when he was only at the early nascent soul stage. He actually asked a complete stranger to help him carry the condensed nascent golden pill. His courage was not small. "Hee, aren't you afraid that I'll embezzle it?" Linny said deliberately. Zhang Hahai couldn't meet Qinyu, so even if he embezzled the pill, no one would be able to prove it. "Big Brother Lin, you must be joking. You're the prince consort of the West Island. and you can casually take out a 7th grade elixir as a gift. This 6th grade condensed nascent golden pill is probably not enough for you, right? Besides, you're a trustworthy person, so I dare to ask for it. Zhang Hahai said seriously. Hee, it seems like you know a lot about me. You're very well informed. Linny smiled slightly. You flatter me. My strength is too low, so I can't be your and Miss Ning's bodyguard like Big Brother Long. However, I've been in this academy for 10 years, and with this experience, I can be considered to have a wide network of people and eyes. I can't help much, but if Ren Zhongyuan and the others do anything strange, I can inform Big Brother Long immediately. Zhang Hahai recommended himself. All right, then I'll have to trouble you. Linny nodded. With Zhang Hahai's information and Long Rufin's protection, Ning Shuefe would be a double layer of insurance. Nothing would go wrong, so he could be completely at ease. This is what I should do. Zhang Hahai looked delighted. Not only was he returning the favor, but he could also use this opportunity to build a relationship with a strong person like Lin Yi, which was also very beneficial for him. Then, he deliberately lowered his voice and said, By the way, Yi Xiaotian sneakily went on a long trip a few days ago. I don't know what he went to, but the first thing he did when he returned was a party with Ren Zhongyuan to celebrate. I think there might be something fishy about this, so you should be careful, Big Brother Lin. Yi Xiaotian? All right, thank you. Let's part ways here, and we'll meet again. With that, Linny promptly bid farewell to everyone. Both Hui Yudi and Ning Shuefe were reluctant to part. Although they were mentally prepared for this, they still could not help but want to cry when it really came time to say goodbye. Lin Yi repeatedly promised that they would meet again soon, and only then did the two girls finally stop crying and smile, each giving him a hug before they were willing to let him go. Even after Lin Yi's figure disappeared beyond the academy gates, the two girls still refused to turn back for a long time. Lu Ziyu and Qin Xingma then tried their best to comfort them, and the two girls finally got rid of their husband-gazing stone state. From then on, Hui Yudi did not return to the Morning Pride Academy. Since the disciple assessment was over, she simply asked Qin Xingma to get her a spot as an exchange disciple so that she could stay behind to keep Ning Shuefe company. Ning Shuefe naturally could not ask for more. Although she also had Lung Rufin and young Qin Xue by her side to protect her, Hui Yudi was her true sister after all. There were many private words that could only be said to Hui Yudi, and it was not suitable for outsiders to know. After coming out of the Soaring Cloud Academy, Lin Yi immediately activated the Super Butterfly Microstep and hurried on his way. He did not feel it before, but at this moment, when he thought that he would be able to see Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaodao very soon, his heart became even more impatient, and he did not want to delay even a moment. However, after only a little less than half a day, Lin Yi suddenly stopped his pace and changed his route to a small town nearby. He found an inn to stay in. Because it was not too far from the Soaring Cloud Academy and the Morning Pride Academy, this small town was marked on the map as being within the sphere of influence of the two academies, and could be considered as a small town affiliated to the academies. Chapter 48:12. The town where Lin Yi was located was on the edge of Soaring Cloud City. It was a new area that had only been developed in recent years. Its scale was naturally incomparable to that of the main city. However, although it was small, it had everything. Not only did this place have everything, but it was also a well-known gray area. The supervision was far less strict than that of the main city. All kinds of people gathered in this place. The reason why Lin Yi suddenly changed his mind and came here was very simple. He found that someone was following him, and this person did not follow him for a short distance. He had been following him all the way from Soaring Cloud Academy. With the speed of Lin Yi's Super Butterfly Microsteps, the person who could follow him so easily must at least be a master of the mysterious ascending stage. In particular, Lin Yi's divine sense could only detect it, but could not lock on the other party. He had to be careful. At least, he could be sure that the guy following him was definitely not a good person. Lin Yi's guess was right. The person following him was indeed not an ordinary person. It was the powerful figure of Shishan that Ren Zhongyuan and Yi Xiaotian had deliberately invited. After he found Lin Yi at the gate of the academy, he immediately followed him, but he did not choose to make a move. It was not that he did not want to, but he did not dare to. Unless he could ensure that there was no one around, he would not dare to make a move. After all, this was still within the sphere of influence of the academy. Evil cultivators like him were like street rats. Once they showed up, they would inevitably be attacked by others. Although he was a master of the mysterious ascending stage, it was a pity that he was really nothing in the East Continent. Any big shot of the academy could easily kill him. The powerful figure of Shishan originally planned to make a move after he left the sphere of influence of the academy. No one in the cultivation world would meddle in other people's business. It was the same in the East Continent. As long as he did not act wildly in the sphere of influence, even if they knew that he was an evil cultivator, the masters of the academy would only turn a blind eye to him. Sometimes, they would even cooperate with him, just like Ren Zhongyuan and Yi Xiaotian, who knew that Lin Yi would suddenly change his route and enter a small town. The mighty figure of West Mountain could only disguise himself as an ordinary person and stay in the inn with them. Fortunately, this was not a strictly monitored main city, or else he might not have dared to follow them in. After all, there were all sorts of people in a small town. As long as he did not openly reveal his identity as an evil cultivator, it would not be a big problem. For the next 2 days, Lin Yi did not follow his original plan to rush to the Morning Star Academy, but instead strolled around the town. After strolling around for 2 whole days, he finally locked onto the stalker, who was staying in the same inn as him. It was a profound ascended late-stage expert. Lin Yi could not help but be secretly speechless. This guy was really not simple. He was obviously only separated by a layer of wood, but with his insight, it took him such a long time to find him. His concealment skills were really first class. But what puzzled him was, why would such a profound ascension late-stage expert follow him for no reason? From the looks of it, they didn't come with good intentions. Could it be that Yi Xiaotian invited them to deal with him? But it had been 2 whole days. Why was this guy still holding back and not making a move? Was he afraid that there would be too many people in this place? Just as Lin Yi was muttering to himself, the ghost's laughter suddenly sounded in his mind. Kid, why is it that the stronger you get, the more timid you become? What's there to make a fuss about? It's just a profound ascended stage, trash evil cultivator. Just trick him to a place where no one is around and kill him. Why are you so hesitant? This guy is an evil cultivator? No wonder he doesn't dare to make a move in public. Lin Yi was stunned when he heard this. Then he smiled bitterly and shook his head. Senior, you say it so easily. Even if he is an evil cultivator, he is still a profound ascended late-stage expert. It's not certain who will kill who. If it was in the past, with Lin Yi's current nascent soul late-stage strength, he really might not put the profound ascended late-stage in his eyes. After all, he was used to it. When he killed many profound ascended stage experts, he naturally didn't feel that it was a big deal. However, the appearance of Long Rufin completely reversed his perception. After all, the profound ascended stage experts were not cabbages. With his current strength, even if he could kill an ordinary profound ascended stage expert in seconds, if he met a real strong person, the consequences would be unpredictable. One must know that just a profound ascended early stage expert like Long Rufin could already suppress him. Once he really met a difficult profound ascended late stage expert, even Lin Yi could only be hunted down. Profound ascended late stage also depends on who it is. If it's Long Rufin in the profound ascended late stage, I will definitely advise you to run away. But now this trash evil cultivator, that is, Long Rufin was in the state where you spent 5 days in a row. Don't tell me you can't even kill him like that? The ghost curled its lips. If that's the case, then that's great. I was just worried that there was no one to feed me. This guy came at the right time. Lin Yi was immediately happy when he heard this. Ever since he fought with Long Rufin for half a month, he had already tasted the sweetness of fighting. When he had nothing to do, he wanted to find Long Rufin to spar. This time, before he set off, he specially sparred several times. Unfortunately, Long Rufin's state had recovered, but he obviously didn't dare to use his full strength. This guy attached great importance to his status. Facing his boss, Lin Yi, he didn't dare to fight at all. What if he couldn't control himself and seriously injured Linny, or even directly killed him? Linny tried a lot of ways to persuade him, but Long Rufin just couldn't let go. Several times, he could only stop at a certain point, causing Lin Yi's interest to wane. But now it's good. A profound ascended late-stage expert came to his door. This evil cultivator was not big nor small, just right to be a sparring partner. Lin Yi didn't act rashly after locking onto the Shishan master's position. He waited until midnight before leaving without a sound. If it was someone else, Lin Yi would have been able to avoid detection 99% of the time, but the Shishan master sensed it right away. In order to use Lin Yi's head to pave the road of advancement, the Shishan expert really put in a lot of effort this time. Almost all the time, he was paying attention to Lin Yi's position, waiting for the last opportunity to make a move, and now he finally waited for it. The Shishan expert suddenly revealed a sinister sneer and chased after him. Previously, he had been inexplicably circling around here for 2 days. Even a fool knew that Lin Yi must have noticed that something was wrong, but this kid actually thought that he could slip away under his nose in the dark. He was simply too naive. Locking onto Lin Yi's aura from afar, the Shishan expert was not in a hurry to make a move. Even if it was now night, to be safe, he had to wait until he was out of the school's sphere of influence. Haste makes waste, and he couldn't act rashly and ruin the big plan. Lin Yi was still using the super butterfly microstep to hurry on his way. This speed was already extremely fast, and with the cover of the night, he was like a ghost. Ordinary people couldn't even see him clearly, let alone follow him from afar. Chapter 48:13. In terms of movement techniques, evil cultivators who pursued the extreme by any means necessary were the real ghosts. Especially when Shishan was an evil cultivator who was good at movement techniques. Not to mention a nascent soul stage master, even a profound ascending stage master of the same level wouldn't be able to get rid of him easily. The two chased after each other for an entire night, and by the time the sun was up, Lin Yi was in the middle of an endless forest. There were no villages in front of him, no shops behind him, and he was far away from the school's territory. Shishan looked at the surrounding environment and sneered silently. He thought that this kid would sneak into the main city. If that was the case, he would really have to go through a lot of trouble. But now, this kid had found a good place to bury himself, which saved him a lot of trouble. There wasn't even a ghost in a 100-mile radius. No matter how big the commotion was, no one would come to get in the way. He really didn't know whether to say that this kid was stupid or to praise him for being tactful. Just as Shishan was about to make a move, Lin Yi suddenly stopped in front of him. This startled Shishan. He couldn't help but be a little suspicious. What did this kid want to do? This place is almost there. Although the feng shui isn't very good, it's more than enough to bury a follower. Come out, Lin Yi said lightly. The mighty figure of the West Mountain was stunned. He had been very careful along the way. In order to avoid alerting the enemy, he had been hanging several kilometers away. He had also carefully concealed his aura. How could this kid have discovered him? Impossible. This brat is definitely bluffing, trying his luck to trick me out. Shishan originally planned to make a move, but now he changed his mind. With the mentality of a cat playing with a mouse, he wanted to see how long Lin Yi could play this one-man show. Hee, still hiding and not wanting to come out. Are you deceiving yourself? Lin Yi grinned, and then unreservedly revealed the strength of the late nascent soul stage. He said lightly, "Hurry up and come out and fight with me. I think our strength is about the same. Don't dawdle, let's fight. You've been hiding for a few days. Are all evil cultivators like you?" Hearing this, Shishan knew that he had indeed been discovered. However, he couldn't help but feel astonished. He had concealed his aura so well, so how did this brat find out that he was a heretical cultivator? Suppressing the doubts in his heart, Shishan Almighty immediately appeared without hesitation, releasing a powerful aura, and sneered, "Humph, boy, did you see wrongly? This old man is at the late stage of profound ascension, and you are just at the late stage of yuanying. How can our strength be the same? There's a huge difference. You'll only know how weak you are when you fight. Don't talk so much nonsense." My hands have been itching for a long time. He cracked his knuckles as he spoke. He'd thought that the guy would have made his move a long time ago, but he didn't think that the guy would have dragged it out like a tortoise. He had to admit that the tortoise was pretty fast. Itchy hands? Humph. This old man thinks that your skin is itching for death. Reckless dog, you actually dare to provoke our Western Mountain Old Sect. Today, I, the Western Mountain Almighty, will take your head to congratulate the old sect. The Western Mountain Almighty mocked. West Mountain Old Master? You are also from the West Mountain Evil Sect? He couldn't help but be stunned. He only heard that the ghost said that he was a heretical cultivator, but he didn't expect to encounter the West Mountain Evil Sect even in the East Continent. It was really a small world for enemies. He thought that this guy was simply an assassin that Ren Zhongyuan and the others found to deal with him. Humph, you're lucky that you can survive until now after provoking our West Mountain Old Master. But today, your luck has come to an end. Die. The Western Mountain Almighty said as he stretched out his claws in the direction of Lin Yi. Lin Yi suddenly felt an incomparably terrifying suction force in front of him. It was actually trying to suck him over. This was not a simple telekinesis. If he hadn't been on guard in advance to protect his body with true qi, all the meridians and blood vessels in his body would have burst, and his whole body might have directly turned into a cloud of blood mist. A heretical cultivator was indeed a heretical cultivator. Just a casual attack was such an extremely sinister move. With a thought, Lin Yi suddenly gave up resisting, and his whole body was instantly sucked over. Seeing this, the Western Mountain Almighty was overjoyed. You guys who claim to be from the righteous sects just love to brag. What bullsh *t about fighting an enemy with a higher realm? That's all there is to it. This move of his was called opening claw. As the name suggested, once one was hit by his claw, one's stomach would immediately be cut open. Even if one's true qi protected one's body, it would be useless, because the true qi protection would be instantly pierced by the tip of his claw. As for the remaining flesh and blood, there was no need to even mention it. The distance between them quickly closed, and just when it looked like he was about to be hit, not only did Lin Yi not think of a way to slow down, but he suddenly shot true qi from his back to push the boat with the current. His speed suddenly increased by a lot, and his whole body suddenly attacked the Western Mountain Almighty like a cannonball. Seeing this, the Western Mountain Almighty was shocked. By the time he reacted, Lin Yi was already in front of him. Both of his palms were surging with fiery will, and it was completely red, with the profound state of yin and yang 8 trigrams. How dare you? What a reckless junior! Seeing this, the Western Mountain Almighty was furious. A mere nascent soul late stage dared to do this. It was clear that he did not put him in his eyes. His opening claw, which could suck people through the air, was indeed full of flaws in the eyes of many masters. Just like now, it was easy for others to borrow strength to fight back. Unfortunately, these people had forgotten that he was a profound ascension late-stage master. How could an existence at his level be so easily full of flaws? When a flaw was particularly obvious, it was very likely to be a deliberate trap. Those masters who saw this move and felt that they could take advantage of it, when they borrowed strength to fight back and hitched a ride on the powerful suction, the final result was unbearable to look at, without exception. And now, under his opening claw, there was going to be another dead soul. On the surface, the Western Mountain Almighty pretended to be shocked and angry, but in his heart, he was about to burst into laughter. How could such a stupid thing escape from the hands of the old sect? His dog shit luck was against the heavens. In the blink of an eye, the two had already met face to face. The 5 fingertips of the Western Mountain Almighty were emitting a terrible and terrifying black gas. Without dodging, he directly grabbed at Lin Yi's frenzied fire 8 trigrams palm. In the eyes of many people, they thought that the most terrifying part of the opening claw was the powerful suction force of the exploding blood vessels. As long as one could withstand this force, one could easily deal with it. After all, the claw itself did not have any terrifying power to speak of. In fact, it was the opposite. The suction force was just a cover. The real terrifying part of this move was still the opening claw. The more ugly something was, the more deadly it was. Chapter 48:14. Fortunately, Lin Yi's reaction was fast enough. At the critical moment, he directly used the extreme butterfly steps. That was how he was able to barely avoid the dangerous claws of the opponent and avoid being killed in one hit. Hee, my claws are invincible. I can even break divine weapons. You're just a late-stage original level cultivator, and you dare to compete with me? You have no self-awareness at all. How stupid. The mighty figure laughed proudly. He can even break divine weapons? Linny raised his eyebrows slightly when he heard this. He thought to himself, don't brag without a draft. If it weren't for the fact that his weapon couldn't be formed at the last step, he would definitely show this guy what he said today. I threw a lot of rare materials into it. If it can still be broken with bare hands, then I really don't need to live anymore. There's no need for divine weapons. Break this move of mine first. Before Lin Yi's voice died away, accompanied by a dragon's roar, the murderous aura of the 5 elements attacked directly towards the mighty figure of West Mountain. Hee, you dog that hasn't seen the world. Do you really think I'm just talking big? Seeing this, the mighty figure of West Mountain didn't hesitate to reach out towards the murderous aura of the 5 elements. The claws were the move that he was famous for. Even today, it was still his main martial arts skill. Breaking divine weapons was not a boast. It was real. In the blink of an eye, the mighty figure of West Mountain had already grabbed the murderous aura of the 5 elements. However, before he could show a proud expression, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his clawed hand. When he took a closer look, he suddenly turned pale with fright. The murderous aura of the 5 elements was not broken by him at all. Instead, it directly wrapped around his arm. At this moment, the black gas on his claw had been crushed by the murderous aura of the 5 elements. The so-called invincible claws of the 5 elements were broken by itself. His 5 fingertips were bleeding profusely. If he didn't find a way to quickly escape, even if he was lucky enough to escape with his life, he would definitely lose his arm. I say, were the divine weapons you encountered before made of paper? Could you even break them like that? Linny looked at him with a calm and unruffled expression. The 5 elemental killing aura was an extremely aggressive and ferocious force. It was complicated and profound, and no force in the world could compare to it, let alone the evil chi of a mere evil cultivator. In front of the 5 elemental killing aura, it was simply trash. The mighty figure of West Mountain was angry and anxious. He couldn't care less about Lin Yi's mockery. He tried his best to shake off the 5 elemental killing aura that was entangling his arm, but his evil energy was completely restrained by the 5 elemental killing aura. No matter how much it came, it would be destroyed. After struggling for a while, there was still no sign of it weakening. It seemed that the ghost was right. Although this guy was a profound ascension late-stage master, his real strength was not comparable to Long Rufin, who was at the early profound ascension early stage. At least when the latter faced the 5 elemental killing aura, he was far more powerful. As long as he swung his blade, the 5 elemental killing aura could only be cut. It could only be said that comparing oneself to others was infuriating. Long Rufin was a freak who could cultivate the blade force. No matter where he was a genius among geniuses. On the other hand, the evil cultivator of West Mountain was far worse. Of course, if this guy's aptitude was as heaven-defying as Long Rufin, he wouldn't be an evil cultivator. Go to hell. The mighty figure of West Mountain was really anxious now. In order to crush the murderous aura of the 5 elements wrapped around his arm, he did not hesitate to pour out all of his evil aura. His entire body was instantly enveloped by black aura, and even the surrounding area of several dozen feet around him became pitch black, as if an evil demon had descended upon the world. When so much extremely rich evil energy gathered together, the 5 elemental killing aura finally showed some signs of defeat, and was gradually expelled and eroded. Just a 5 elemental killing aura was enough to force a profound ascension late-stage evil cultivator into such an embarrassing situation. As a Yuaniing late-stage master, Lin Yi could already be proud. However, there was still a bit of regret on his face. The 5 elemental killing aura was his strongest move now. Sure enough, it was still too difficult to kill the opponent in one move. After all, the difference in strength between them was too big. Of course, even if he couldn't kill the opponent in one move, it was not a big problem to simply kill the opponent. At most, it would take some effort. Take your life while you're sick. Lin Yi, on the other hand, didn't have the habit of letting the enemy recover. Before the Shishan Master could completely destroy the 5 elements, a blue arc shot through the air, and the Shishan Master didn't even have a chance to react under this lightspeed attack. He was hit in an instant. The blue arc flashed and disappeared into his forehead, and the West Mountain mighty figure's whole body suddenly froze. This was the time when he concentrated all the evil energy in his body to deal with the 5 elemental killing aura. Although the blue arc itself did not have any damage, this sudden paralysis effect was simply killing him. The West Mountain mighty figure was in a stalemate for a moment, and the originally weakened 5 elemental killing aura immediately made a comeback. The most terrible thing was that Lin Yi took the opportunity to add another one. Anyway, for him, there was an endless supply of Zhen Qi. As long as there was time and space, it was easy to throw 8 or 10 of them. A dignified, profound ascension late-stage evil cultivator, at this time, could only look at the 2 intertwined 5 elemental killing aura on his arms speechlessly. Especially every time he was about to use all his strength to expel it, there would immediately be another blue arc on top of his head. The paralysis effect was so annoying that the West Mountain mighty figure was about to cry. Damn it, can I still keep this arm of mine? I really didn't realize it before, but I didn't expect you to be so wretched. Seeing the West Mountain mighty figure in a fluster, the ghost thing suddenly laughed. Senior, don't talk nonsense. How am I wretched? Lin Yi was speechless. You're not wretched? Relying on your endless Zhen Qi to use all kinds of life-risking ultimate moves, the power of thunder and lightning, and the 5 elemental killing aura, and you still hide far away. If this isn't wretched, then what is? The ghost thing curled its lips. Senior, this is called a sense of crisis. If this guy has any trump cards, wouldn't it be courting death to rush up rashly? Lin Yi corrected it in a bad mood. He wanted to rush up and fight with his fists, but the problem was that the other party was a profound ascension late-stage expert, and not a soft persimmon that could be pinched by others. If he rushed up at this time, he would definitely become the other party's breakthrough point. It was obvious that he could rely on a series of moves to properly kill the opponent, but in the end, he still wanted to rush up and play with fire. In Lin Yi's view, this was not called bravery, but idiocy. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.